Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Ko-Fi, crypto and Patreon link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Melts 24, U Unimento, M Iron 26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fiber Oats, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealons, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, Michael Kahn has actually gone on to endeavour into a show of his own, so a shout out to him. He did mirror what he and Paula and Paul actually did last night. So check out Michael Kahn channel. I'll spell it for you. It's obviously Michael, but it's Khan. So check out Michael Kahn's channel. Hopefully you'll see some more material from him going into the future. But with that, I'm going to pass over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
You know the term quality of life, right?
Quality of life?
Discord, quality of life. Like, if you don't know it, I'm not going to go into it.
I know what quality of life
What about the
means.
word?
A quality of life thing is me having buttons next to me instead of having to click on things on the screen. That's a quality of life little box that I've got next to me.
It just means the user interface is very intuitive and very easy to use and very friendly and very like managed very well and everything, right? Like no wasting time or any of that, right? That's like quality of life. That's what it means. It's a gaming term, right? So Discord has like very high quality of life. It's very, very like out of all the apps, it's like by far and away the best. Okay, and
I'll take your word for it.
it's not that. What's that?
I said I'll take your word for it.
Right. So it's not that complicated to use Discord. Like at first it may seem complicated, but once you get into it, it's like, oh wow, this is so easy. And you do want to get at least familiar with the basics of Discord, right? Because this is like your bread and butter in a sense for the show, right? It will really help you propel your show forward if you get a bit familiar with the Discord. So the time invested in it just to get the basics down will yield you a lot back in return. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think after whatever it is, 3 or 4 years of using it now, I should really understand how it works to some basic extent, and I don't. So yeah, I agree. I'll have to learn to a degree. But in terms of what you're describing as quality of life features, just the fact it has features, to me is anti-quality of life in terms of the way I do things. So almost every piece of software that's running is autonomous. I don't actually have to do anything. It's kind of set it up once and forget about it. Now with Discord, it's different. Can you go to this part of Discord and have a look? No, I can't. No, because that requires me to resize the screen, look for what you're telling me where I don't know how to look for it, and generally interact with a page on my screen. And I don't want to. I don't even have a desk in front of me. I don't have a keyboard in front of me. Did you realise that, by the way? That might explain some of my limitations. Did you know that I don't actually have a keyboard or desk in front of me?
The desk I knew, not the keyboard thing.
Don't have anything. So I sit here with a mouse because I can get away with most stuff with just the mouse. And I've got a box that Anthony gave me because at one point I just had the mouse and Anthony was like, "You're so limited, you need something else." I'm like, nah. So he bought me this Stream Deck and it just arrived and he's like, "No, you've got to have that." Now, okay, admittedly, I'm quite dependent on that now, but that is literally all I have, a Stream Deck and a mouse. Because I'm doing the show, I need the show to be autonomous in terms of how it functions, because often I'm involved in debating with somebody. So I need to know that if I detach myself entirely from the production level element of the show to have a discussion, that it can quite literally function. Now, in the same way as you'll often see a singer on stage closing their eyes when they sing a particularly passionate part, I'll do that. I'm sitting here when I'm not on camera, obviously, and I'm trying to concentrate on listening to what the person's saying, and I'm trying to tune out all of the stuff that's around me. That means I literally will close my eyes so I can concentrate on what's being said. Now, if in that moment I'm in Discord faffing around with it, trying to find some message that someone sent me or trying to find some bit of info, that's going to distract me. So I need it to be autonomous. Now, I'm not disagreeing of saying I'm reluctant to learn anything, because obviously there's going to be points where I'm not running the show and need to negotiate my way around Discord to a different server or something, so fine. But by the same token, once it's showtime, I need it to be set and forget, because I can't be faffing with it. Other than start, stop, close lines, open lines, that's about it. That's about all I do. And transition the screen, which again takes my concentration 100%. If you ever see transitions going on, right? So when you watch the stream back, like with Tinfoil Hatman, you can see that I'm working. The screens are moving around. There's people who are talking on screen and then they're not because he's putting something back on screen. He's telling me to go to a different timestamp. Obviously, that all involves a mental involvement that can't have me debating somebody while that's going on. So I'm doing the production level stuff, which means I'm essentially, to some extent, not involved with the show, other than a cursory, yes, I understand. Yes, I'm at that timestamp. Yes, you can carry on talking. Yes, can please stop interrupting Tinfoil Hatman. That's about my level of involvement at that point. But because I'm having to do things that are functional, so hence this is my explanation for why I don't want to do certain things in Discord or even familiarise myself with them. Because you might just think, why are you being so combative about it or disagreeable about it? It's like, well, because I have too many things to cope with when I've got my eyes closed anyway, if you know what I mean.
Right, our mind is like a one core CPU. It can only do one task at a time and switch between that one task or another.
Exactly.
And when it's dedicated to one task, it's not focusing on the other task.
Yeah, I can do one of the useful terms I don't know why. It's one of those videos you watch, air crash disaster stuff, and they quite often talk about something called the scan, right? Which is they're just in a constant habit, a constant routine of dotting their I's over every single instrument to just gauge what's going on. Yeah. Well, I have that in I've kind of got it drilled into me. You know, check what the tap's doing, check if anybody's rumpusing in G+, see if there's any lights flashing away and someone wants to talk in Discord, see if I've had any new messages on Skype, check that the live stream's still functioning, check that all the lines are okay on voice meter and nothing's overloading, recheck the live stream because I've got two of them, check that the reel's still playing, check that OBS, the actual output, is functioning fine, recording and broadcasting, then start the whole thing again. And I'll just go through that routine across both screens in a circle constantly throughout the entirety of, like now, I'm doing it constantly. Yeah. But there will be a point, like I say, where I can't. I've just got to stop that scan because I need to concentrate on what's being said. Because otherwise someone will immediately cry foul. That's not what I said. Yeah. And then it's, oh, he's just not a good host. He just doesn't listen. It's like all I'm doing is trying to listen intently. But, oh, well, this Discord's flashing. What's someone saying? Oh, I've got a message. I can't do that. I just can't. I'm a bloke.
Okay.
So you're saying you can't chew gum and walk?
I can do the scan and talk. I can do the scan and produce screen transitions, but I can't do the scan and produce screen transitions / or talk and monitor Discord messages as well. I just can't add that extra thing, even though I've got, strictly speaking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 windows that are currently open that I'm literally looking at all the time. I can only really focus on a couple of things at once. And, you know, I just can't add Discord to that. Other than it being a gateway, what I want from it is a gateway. Now, for it to be a door that people actually want to walk through, that isn't just a door on the other side that broadcasts to YouTube, it has to have more to entice the participants. They have to get something out of being in that server. Now, the social aspect has to be built by a social element being instilled in the server by the people who run it. And that ain't me. Yeah? I don't even know how to use it. But what I do want and get from the people who do put that into the server with their time and effort is a public gateway that people are willing to walk through. And people are, as you can see right now, right? There's people in the server. Yeah? Well, as long as that gateway is always published below my video and people can always just stroll in off the street with a few minor inconveniences to become a Discord member if you're not already on Discord, it's not that big a hassle to actually join the show. In fact, it's very easy. You're saying it's got lots
I don't know about that, Nathan.
Go on.
I had a hard time. FE Jedi walked me through it. This is years ago. But I know what you're talking about of getting lost from jumping from one server to another. Because that happens to me all the time. And I can't get back to Flat Earth debate. That's why I don't like going.
Let me add one more thing so I can go focus on other things too, speaking of being only able to focus on one or the other. Right. I just want to leave it on this note. Let me know if you, in the meantime, while you're getting used to Discord, next time you want to go on Earth Awakenings, whether it be today or tomorrow, whenever, just let me know. I'll just go to Geo quickly, let him know quickly, and then I'll let you know quickly, and then that way it's done decent and in order. Is that okay, Nathan?
Yeah, that's fine. And perfectly reasonable.
Right. Okay. I'll just I'll leave you guys to it because I want to focus on doing some of my morning stuff. So I'll just be listening in the background.
See you later. So, Nathan, I do like how you, when you do go into other servers, I don't know if you do it deliberately or you just being yourself, but you tend to take the, how do you say it, bull by the horns, and you take control. I like that. No matter whose server it's in, you're taking over. Because we're taking over. Because we're starting with our right foot first that Earth is flat, and that's the way it should be. So I don't know if you're doing it willfully or that's just the way you are, but it's good.
That's just a personality trait. It's from sales and performing arts training, as in you're supposed to own a room and,
Yes.
get people to pay attention to you and what you have to do or say, be it on a sales platform. That is, you're trying to convince the person and everyone around has got to be wowed for you to make a sale. So you've got to own that room. And if you're on a stage, that's a bit more obvious in case that first one didn't sit home, right? Then being on a stage is a lot more obvious, right? You've got to engage the people that are watching you. Well, I have a certain degree of confidence when I go into another server because in the small little community that we're in, at least people know who I am when I get there. But that is not always the case. I'll give you an example. I went into one of the Mudflood type servers, and obviously I'm totally unknown to any of them. I just arrived, and it's not like they're going to make room for me, the totally unknown guys just arrived in their server because they're putting links out. So I didn't get to say a single word the entire time I was there, from memory. I think I said about 5 words, and then was quickly shut down by one of the other participants because they had a particular topic, something I was completely unfamiliar with. Now, I had joined because there was something I wanted to add to the discussion. I can't remember what, but I never got the opportunity. And that's not me owning the room. So it depends on the circumstances. Yeah? If you've got a reputation that precedes you, then you can do that. If you're a completely unknown entity, it's the same in sales. You can't just walk into an unknown customer and expect to suddenly wow the pants off them and get them to buy your most expensive item. It's just very unrealistic. Cold, that is.
I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. They know who you are, so, and they are going to make room because they do have respect for who you are in this genre. So they do yield, and that's good. It's the same thing when you're dealing with, believe it or not, organized crime. If you got to go in and they call you in for a sit down, you better freaking go in there and humbly own the room, if you know what I'm saying. Otherwise, you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's nice to be able to occasionally lean on a reputation that may or may not precede me in a good way. But yeah, I'll take advantage of that every time.
And what about Witsit? Because we gave him some props on QEs yesterday because I liked how he got behind you and reaffirmed what you were saying, and he didn't go into nonsense land. I like that Witsit. I can get behind that Witsit. So I decided, I'm not going to call him Shitsit no more. I'll call him Witsit. But if he starts to act like Shitsit, then, it's game over.
We all need a confidence readjustment in terms of our attitude, or an attitude readjustment, based on our confidence, right? Okay, well, yeah, we can expose the numpty aspects of upward rising Earth, ether, ice walls, domes, whatever you like. We can spend our time doing that if we choose to. But we've got bigger fish to fry and a much better broiler than we used to have. So why bother? You know, Witsit may be of a priority to some people because, well, QE, he's seen as a poison in this community to QE. And there's a market out there for people who want to believe in Bigfoot. There's a market out there for people who want to believe in spirits. There's a market out there for people who want to believe in ghosts, and there's a market out there for people who want to believe in ether. Now, so long as we moving forward can distinguish ourselves from people with beliefs in anything, then we'll be on the front foot always. Now, if there are people in our wake, or in the case of Witsit, who's considerably more popular than any of us, in their wake, that happen to have beliefs, so be it. Yeah? In the wake analogy, we've got big enough tail fins to keep up with the current and the wake that's produced by people who are ahead of us in some respect, popularity being the metric in this regard. Does it change anything about our position? No. Does it have a detrimental effect if we are overtly bashing them again? And yeah, it does. Yeah, it has a very detrimental effect, because then suddenly we're sinking to the level of pointing out how one of our own is wrong when there's a giant truth to be spread. Not lie to be exposed in 2024, a truth to be spread about how Earth is dealt with. And that, for me, is calming. You know, I feel less and less as the days progress into 2024, less and less of a need to get more and more agitated and angry with some of the people getting frustrated with me. Now, I'll tell you what I watched today, Neil. I watched the Summer Wells kidnapping father guy on a phone call with a load of investigators on the internet, let's just call them YouTube budding investigators. And they're just spitballing about what they think might have happened to this disappeared girl. And the guy phones them up, don't know how he's got their phone number, that didn't come into the video that I watched, and starts basically behaving like quite a few of our opponents who come here. Sharing his pain, effing and blinding, being very angry, because he was scared. Now, I don't know the reason why. His fears pouring out of every little orifice, because I don't know the ins and outs of this kidnapping or whatever they're claiming as parents that have lost a kid to have happened. But what I do know is his behaviour is exemplified by the people who come here. It's not exemplified, it's paralleled by the people who come here and pour their pain and fear onto us. Well, their pain and fear is connected to their religion and the lack of evidence for it. And I'm trying to disassociate myself from that as I go forward. And the more I do it, the more calm I feel. The less I feel the need to argue the toss when I'm right. The more I feel that maybe they can blart away as much as they like, as long as they're not completely disruptive and, you know, regardless of any interaction that you try and have with an opponent, they're going to rumpus and cause audio chaos. You know, you've got to obviously deal with that as and when it comes up. But in terms of their actual processing ability, like the guy yesterday in Earth Awakenings, Left Lane, I think he was called. Were you there for that, Neil?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you could hear it yesterday. Everything you're describing, you could hear it in those guys yesterday, their pain.
Their fear. It's fear.
Yep.
And that's what they've worked on us to get us into the first lie. And then relinquishing the lie, which is far harder than convincing somebody of something that's not true, leaves them with a tenfold sensation of the same fear. And yeah, that's very hard to get past. So why bother? You know, their fear of their lack of proof for heliocentrism or how it doesn't work, I don't think it's something that we need to focus on anymore. I think pointing out how we actually deal with the Earth and always attempting to bring it back onto that track. You know, I don't want to take all the credit for pushing it when it was John's initial mentality that has driven me to this position to sort of verbalize it on a daily basis now. But going, you guys need a flat plane to argue for a globe was how it started. And you go, so you guys are measuring a flat plane. And then as the last years progressed, we've seen more and more examples come to light of where in the past we had argued within the context of them utilising a flat plane measurement to argue a globe. So the more that solidifies in my mind, the more I go, I'm seeing the results of this. Not retrospectively in some regard. So I listened back to, I mentioned him yesterday, Matthew Learns, when he's talking about how he's going to measure Earth flat. And all of the concessions come when it's talking about how we actually do functionally deal with the Earth. Because both sides are measuring it flat. It's far easier to get those concessions. And I'm not telling him how his orbital mechanics don't work within a ball paradigm, how they don't match with a certain star prediction, because that minor little inconsistency or discrepancy to a fundamentalist is easy to ignore. But a fundamental measurement of its flat, you heard their reaction yesterday. Well, it's not the Earth. Let me get it straight. So the latitude and longitude lines, when plotted onto a globe in a computer program on an aeroplane, you think that puts you on a globe because that's the surface, the latitude and longitude grid plotted onto it. Okay, let's talk about what the latitude and longitude grid and what's being measured. Earth's being measured, and it's being measured flat. Response from opponent, well, then it's not the ground. Yeah, it is the ground. That's what we're
Yeah, that
navigating.
was funny.
Well, that's what they're doing, right? But is that them having to brace against me telling them their religion's wrong, or is it them bracing against the actual reality that they already know, and then they deny that it's reality? They're saying it's not the world. It's the ground we're measuring is not the ground. How does that sound to an onlooker?
Sounds beautiful. I tell you what, and it was way before that too. Who was the one that I forgot what the discussion was, but he said, "I'll give you the flat Earth," because he had to, and we didn't pick up on it back then.
Conspiracy cats.
But that's
So conspiracy
right.
cats, in order to do an angular comparison with the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, has to derive his measurements from a flat plane to give him his angular inference, that's the word. And his angular inference requires he measures as a flat plane. So therefore, he declares that as a like a bargaining chip he's giving us. I'll let you have the flat Earth. No. You have to utilize it to make this argument. So I'll give you a flat Earth is I'm going to need to use a flat Earth. He disappeared shortly after that.
Yes, I remember. I do remember. But
that's
yeah.
another example of retrospectively realizing that where our opponent's pain is at its peak is when they have to concede that they appreciate that the measurements are flat. In that case, he's saying, I'll give you a flat Earth to make my angular examples. But no, you're going to need to use a flat Earth. It's the reality. But retrospectively, we now realize that. So if we focus on that, you're going to get less of the people telling us that we're just idiots because we don't understand how the sun works in an orbit, and more concessions where people go, yeah, well, you have to measure it flat because it's so big. Okay, you say it's so big. I say we agree it's measured flat. Because it is.
Yeah, I'm with you.
As for Whitsitt, I've got nothing against Whitsitt. He's on his path, we're on ours. They intertwine occasionally, and we can be civil about it or not. In regards to whether or not he's right or wrong, if there's something that comes across our path that we have to react to, in other words, we're not proactively chasing the bear down, I feel that we will have to continue to do that if it's something that's literally in front of us, because we're complicit if we ignore it.
It happened yesterday, Nathan. The ether was brought up, and I thought that was perfect the way it was dealt with, especially when Adam came in. I mean, that was beautiful. We didn't seek it out, but it came across the table, and it got smacked right down.
Yeah, based on the
Excellent.
lack of proposed evidence by the claimant. In other words, yeah, we're reactively dealing with it and demonstrating the folly that it is based on the lack of evidence provided for the claims being made, pointing out they start in the middle of the process where they're already at the experimental stage without actually observing anything to have happened in nature to begin with. So you go, if we can point out all these flaws, accept it or not. If you're a fantasist that's just like in love with the idea of this ethereal realm that's to be discovered by you, and you might be that new Einstein or new Tesla, then, you know, you're a fantasist and you want that in your life, and YouTube's got that to offer, and Ether gives it you. Like it gives you Bigfoot and aliens and spirit worlds and Mandela effect and a whole load of other nonsense that you can also believe in. And, you know, over my course of flat earth research, all I've done is found myself objecting to other conspiratards. And I don't consider myself one. I don't care about 9/11. I don't care about vaccines. I don't care about Bigfoot. I don't care about aliens. I don't care about any of this stuff. None of it interests me. It was put in front of me as I studied subliminal messaging. Now, there's handbooks for advertisers on how to utilize these tools, and as far as I am concerned, therefore, that is not conspiratorial to assert that people embed messages and images into other advertising material, mostly, to create a certain sex or death cell impression in the image. You know, that's easy to demonstrate. So that put conspiracies and ultimately flat earth in front of me. Again, studying a subject that I didn't consider conspiratorial. So when you get here and you're asking, do you think there was any planes on 9/11? You just think, well, why am I being asked this? What's this got to do with the horizon being claimed to be a physical sphere edge with boats going over it? What's this got to do with us flying through a sky vacuum? Why am I being asked if I believe that there are clone centres cloning Taylor Swift? What? Why have I supposed to have an opinion on this? Absolute tripe. Oh, right, because the people who are punting that it's a flat earth also say that we've got clone centres. Oh my God, where have I arrived? I think that's absolutely by design. The roots to flat earth of the conspiratorial nature get you here as a conspiratard, don't they?
Yes, give me 1 second.
So let's just deviate that crap out of our arena as quick as possible. Let's not speculate. Let's not be those conspiratorial people that are out there offering up speculation so that it tantalizes the audience. Now, you might look at that and go, well, just telling people how people have measured and navigated Earth as a flat plane and showing how it functionally operates when they do navigate the Earth as a flat plane, that's not really juicy. Even when you tell us about the charting and mapping of the territory and how it was all done flat, and how the stars were very much instrumental in that process of charting, navigating, and mapping the world flat as we expanded it out in the territories that we now know and love. That's all demonstrable as proving flat Earth in terms of the world's development. But it's not very exciting. Let me think. If I just sprinkle on a little bit of unknown Antarctic excitement, suddenly everybody's salivating. Yeah. And you're also a conspirator dick that people can easily argue about. What's that? You can't go to Antarctica? Guarded boat stopping you? What about Mr. Beast with his penguins? Yeah, well, that seems like a really easy straw man that you took apart. I wonder why that happened. Yeah, wouldn't it have been easier to have focused on an area of land that's really well inhabited, documented, mapped, charted, and didn't exist prior to a certain date in time? Because then you can show how it was charted as flat without this land, and then it was charted as flat with that land. Discovering new worlds. Oh, right, but that doesn't leave me with any anticipation for what I might find out in Antarctica. Surely the North Pole's more exciting. That's what you get from conspirators.
Yeah, but the only thing I don't like is when they're trying to put us in like a box, like, all right, yeah, we discovered Earth is flat, and the way we argue our points, like they're saying like we're just staying there and that's it, it's over, and like we don't care about anything else. I do. I would love to know what the stars are, but I'm not going to sit there and make claims about them. And this is the difference.
I just want to stick to what I can actually prove so I don't end up feeling like I'm a speculative conspiratard at the end of putting out anything that I
Right.
put out.
Yeah, but we're not. Then maybe I'm freezing it wrong. But we're not. It's not like we're stopping here and that's it. It's over. We don't care about anything else. We're just not going to deal with all the bull crap just to be talking.
Yeah.
look, the guy started off yesterday, said, what if we have proof? What if we can get proof of ether? And then we're on board, right? If they can validate it, I'm not going to resist it. But let's start by defining it first.
Yeah, that's how we take them through the process and expose their lack of evidence for their initial claim of a non-existent thing that nobody's observing that they're trying to validate through man-made gadgets. So, but reactively fine, but I want to proactively point out how we do have a silver bullet now. And it's nice to be able to say that 10 years into the subject matter, knowing full well that I had to go through a whole mud of crap learning how heliocentrism didn't work to get here. Fine. That's all right. I'm not recommending anybody walks in my footsteps, am I? I'm saying, look, here's how Earth's measured. What's that? You came to a flat Earth subject to find out about how Earth's flat. That's how it's measured. For everyone. Without exception. Just go and ask them. And if they allude to it being a sphere, just have a little dig. You'll soon find the flat Earth that's actually being measured. That message is potent.
Yeah, it's a powerful message because it's on point and it's correct.
I want to get to 2025 and contrast, and he's going to probably hate me for using him as this example, but contrast Morgul's debate with Tim Osman and Upside Down Ed Head and one other dude whose name I forget, where he attempted to, as a flat earther, as the title would suggest, disprove how heliocentrism failed to meet up to expectations in terms of its modelling ability. That was his position in the debate. 7, 8, whatever it is now, probably 9 years ago. Really, really early debate. I want to contrast that in a year from now, when there's not me, someone else, like Morgul, debating with the front-footed, Earth's measured flat technique, and when they were met with opposition from a fundamentalist religious zealot telling them that they need to know how a sphere works, and it's battered off as inconsequential because it's not the flat earther's claim. I want to contrast that with Morgul being told, where's your silver bullet? Where's your proof Earth's flat? All you're doing is debunking orbits. Don't debunk the globe. Where's your flat Earth silver bullet? Prove it's flat, prove it's flat. And then someone going, yeah, you measure it flat, we measure it flat, Earth's measured flat, it's documented flat, it's navigated flat, it's built on flat. And any reference that you ever go into any detail with ever will demonstrate that fact in terms of measurements, how it's actually dealt with. Boots on the ground, tape measures on the ground, measure in the ground, it's measured flat. For you, me, and everyone else. And then compare that to Morgul saying, if you take the orbit of Jupiter and put it in the... See the contrast a year from now.
Yeah, there may have been, you're right, Nathan. There was a time for that. And it even says it in the Bible, there's a time for everything. That time's over now because we have the silver bullet.
I want you to watch Michael Kahn's show. I know it's not actually Michael. I watched it on Paula's show. I did a shout out for his channel because obviously Paula's already got an established channel, and Michael Kahn is actually one of my Patreons. Doesn't, but he mirrored like a three-way collab between him, Paul, and Paula. His word is truth, right? So Michael Kahn put that out on his channel because he's obviously one of the people involved in doing it, and I really like it when people like on the fringes get involved as a YouTuber. I positively encourage that. You know, he was one of them, Neil. One of those people on the fringes that I encourage to be a YouTuber.
Yeah, Arwen.
No.
What are you talking about?
Quantum Eraser.
Oh, yeah. I remember. That's right. I do remember. That was the... Listen, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was after the... I don't know if you were talking to him before it, but after the Globe Busters incident, that's when you guys started doing ball busters.
Yeah, but I was trying to convince him full stop because at one point he had a channel and he'd go out and he'd leave comments and he'd spoken to Cathexis, but he didn't publish videos and he was like, nah, that's definitely not something I'm going to be doing. I'm like, well, you should be. And I worked on him for quite some time and eventually he conceded and started putting out videos. The first video being an advert that I produced for him to say, subscribe to this channel, it's going to be making content.
Yeah, so you had to twist his arm a little bit, huh?
Yeah. But my point is to link it back to people like Michael Kahn. When people do these sorts of collaborations, it does take a lot of gumption. I think that might be the right word. Tenacity, maybe. You've got to really push yourself and drive yourself to do it. So initially, it's hard. It's hardest at the start because you're getting very little participation and feedback from the audience initially. Not quite so because you've got Paula in the mix and she's already got an established audience. Like I say, I did actually watch the video I'm referring to on her channel, not Michael's. But I clicked on it on Michael's and I was like, oh, I've already watched this. Oh, of course, yes, of course.
Yeah, I was speaking to Michael this morning. He's a friend of mine. So he was telling me about it yesterday. I totally forgot because I would have definitely joined in there.
Well, I was going to recommend it. There's a few people that have been bashing that particular group specifically, right? And that particular show kind of explains from Paula's good at taking an educational topic and revolving it around specifically that subject, but making it clear to someone like me that it is directly linked to the subject in hand at the moment. So in that particular show, she's linking it back to how we're behaving in a general way, and then Michael makes it explicit to the audience. He's like, yeah, when we're in flat earth chats at the moment, and then expands on how the lesson that's going to be learned in the video itself is obviously specific to the Bible and how it's being contextualized there, but relates to why they would want that to be the subject matter of their discussion on that day. I just liked it. I think it's good. Now, don't get me wrong, Paula's a strong educator in and of herself, but with a little bit of back and forth, it's like to have that there makes certain things that may not have been explicitly understood because Michael's putting his 2 pennyworth in and things like that. So I think it'll be a good collaboration moving forward. But for whatever reason, while that's starting off, they're getting heat off people in the comments, which generally are the pits anyway. Most comment sections and chat forums and live stream chat feed is the pits generally. I don't know how terrible it is at the moment for us. It's fair to middling at best, right? But there's kind of rumblings about that particular trio while they're just about to start or just have started launching something new that's a worthy endeavor that requires a lot of concentration and a lot of praise for actually having the gumption to do it. So yeah, props to all of you.
Yeah, it's how as Christians you respond to people and how we are put in this arena. He was explaining it to me this morning. I wish I would have been on. I wish I would have been there. I totally freaking forgot.
Well, right at the beginning, Paula lays out the standard, and there's the standards in terms of the etiquette and the way that you would present yourself to others. And again, I think it was Michael who piped up and he's like, yeah, but aren't you supposed to turn the other cheek and love thy neighbour and things like that? So you've got this kind of back and forth where I don't want to make Michael Kahn sound like he's the antagonist of the group, but he's being disagreeable.
Did Paula explain who my neighbor is? Because it gets specific in who's my brother.
I love it. So Michael's remarks in the third party from me have got you to be introspective about this. See, Michael, you're a genius. You're in the right place, mate. You'll do well. So you're going to be introspective about this and relate this immediately back to you, aren't you, Neil? I love it. Jobs are good.
No, I just want to know if she broke it down and said, who's my neighbor? Because Jesus breaks down who they are.
You said that in the first person. Don't be deceptive. You said that in the first person. You were relating it back to you.
No, I wasn't. Really. I was just asking if she broke it down. Because it makes it very clear who they are.
Yeah, because you want to... Oh, I'm going to try and stop putting these words in your mouth if you keep denying them. I'll sound like I'm trying to force
I might be. You might be right.
I thought so. I got the intonation. He didn't say you didn't say explicitly, though. So let's just drop it. Fine. I could also do the same, which is why I'm doing it. I'm just trying to lean it on you so that I've got an extra example, but you haven't lent into it, so fine. I'll just use me. Well, while she was saying those things, Paula, and that particular discussion with Michael, you go, yeah, okay, I can easily relate this back to my circumstances, my show, my chat, how they are behaving in my chat, and relate it back to myself. But that's obviously a skill of the person that's essentially talking about a topic that is being related to the subject matter that's at hand for them in the moment. But it's essentially unrelated, right? There's no way anything biblical is going to be related to chat comments in YouTube, let's face it. But the sentiment obviously can be linked, and that takes skill and intelligence, and they're a smart bunch of people, which is obvious from listening to their video. You can see why the collaboration has come about. Strong, like-minded people tend to feed off each other and become stronger for it.
Yeah, because some people have a problem with anger, but it's not anger. It's called holy indignation. That's how you get around that. It's not wrong to have some holy indignation like Jesus had when he drove the people out of the temple, when he saw their hypocrisy and he saw what they were doing to people. He had a holy indignation for the house of God. And he drove them out with a whip.
Well, isn't that lovely?
It's hard in chat, though. It's not easy.
Good morning, fellas. Good morning.
Hello.
I just wanted to add one more thing before the show starts. You guys are talking about Witsit. Witsit wasn't there for the Ether conversation, so I don't know why is everybody getting excited. Witsit changed and all that.
We never said it. We didn't say he was. We were giving him props.
Oh, okay.
We were giving him props.
Yeah, but for what?
Hold on.
Where he was, he got behind me.
Stop. You're saying Witsit was there yesterday? He was in Earth Discussions at one point. He was even moderating.
That's all I wanted to say. He was there for the first part of the conversation. He was moderating, and he did a great job moderating.
He did.
When you finished talking to the guy about the sextant, right, and you asked him for citation, and he didn't have it, you started getting kind of agitated, right? And Witsit jumped in at a perfect time. He told him, "Listen, if you don't have citation, if you don't have proof, stop talking." And he did a great job. He actually did a couple of times, but I don't think he was
completely
there for
agree.
the
I'll reiterate that.
conversation.
Absolutely correct. So there's a couple of times where
Apocryphon?
What I would have loved to have happened is somebody else who isn't me step in, and rather than that stepping in, taking the conversation off the rails, the point that I'm trying to labour and the opponent's trying to get away from got reiterated by the moderator, in that case, Witsit. Could have kissed him. Absolutely epic. I'm like, I suddenly relax into my seat because I haven't got to play moderator, try and keep them on side, try and stop them rumpusing, and try and get my point across. Suddenly, my point that I've reiterated 5 times, someone else, a moderator in this particular setting, Witsit, reiterates that point and reiterates that they haven't addressed it. So it stays right on the rails. Pressure keeps going. You're like, oh, awesome. Yeah. So brings me back onto the point just before getting to the live show. Mush, thank you for that. We call you names, essentially, Neil, when we tell you to shut up. Chat has got into it now, giving super chats and encouraging this behaviour, and I don't like it. Now, Paul timed someone out for it when they super chatted a couple of bucks to tell you to shut up. Yeah? Now, while I won't necessarily agree with the sentiment, we are to blame for the person who super chatted with that sentiment. We're encouraging it. And your sentiment of we shouldn't be calling Witsit names, with ascribing his IQ that he self-declared as 160 or 180 however long ago, and it slowly ebbed its way down to 20 or 10 at one stage. That isn't necessary. And same principle applies to you when we're telling you to shut up. It's come from me actually telling you to shut up. That is to say, you're interrupting where it's inappropriate, and I've got to tell you to shut up. But other people have taken that as like some gag that they can just tell you to shut up any time that they feel like it when you've said anything, especially when it's of value, when you're saying something that's worthy, and then for a gag, someone on the panel's like, shut up, Neil. Just because, no, he's caused a silence because people are pondering what he said. Sorry, talking in the third person about you, Neil. But, yeah, either acknowledge it, recognise it as a good point, don't tell him to shut up. You're like, there we go, it's just one of those. We need to an attitude readjustment internally as well. I've tried to point this out with Brian, right? I'm quite envious of Brian. He's a very smart guy, and I know it. I know he's brighter than I am. So sometimes I'll knock him. Now, it's even hard to say this when it's him that I'm telling him this, explaining this to. It's far easier when he's not here. But it's out of my intimidation for Brian's mental prowess, if you will, when I go, it's because he's Irish or something like that. Just knock him down a peg. Why? Well, because he's demonstrated exemplary mental capacity in excess of my own. Therefore, oh well, that's a threat. Better knock him down a peg or two. So if I can say I understand that I'm doing these bad traits and exemplify how I'm doing them from the first person, there's no better way to get somebody else to be a bit more introspective when they can't be honest about something that they don't know, they don't have a full explanation for, they've just got a belief for. Normally, they just can't face the fact that they've got to actually expose that they don't know something or have behaved in a way because of a feeling they've got towards another person, in my case, Brian. But sort of putting that out there says, you know, there is an internal power struggle that will manifest itself through insults internally that aren't necessary. You know, we all work really well together. It's not like Brian's trying to get one over on me because I'm so much more handsome than he is. And let's face it, I am. But, you know, he's not intimidated by that tremendous beauty that I have. So I shouldn't be intimidated by his tremendous mental prowess.
Correct. And Mighty Mush, we did give Witsit props.
Yeah, but for what? That was my question. For what? Because he wasn't there. For
You missed it.
conversation.
Hold on
He
a
left way
second. He
before
was
that.
there. Listen to me 1 second.
For the Ether
If you
conversation?
listen to QE's show yesterday, we gave him props for how he handled himself on Nathan. While Nathan was in a debate, he came and he backed him up. That's what I gave him props for. I never said he was there during the Ether thing. That was somebody else.
Absolutely.
That's all I wanted to. That was my
he's
point.
on
He just did a
point.
great
He's
job
on
in moderation.
And I complimented
During
his
the
beard.
moderation.
I said he had a very handsome beard
Yes, we know.
to the opponent. He looked like a very beautiful strawberry.
Time for a union meeting. Time for a union meeting.
Good afternoon.
This is pathetic.
Good morning.
What's pathetic?
I'm the only one here on the panel?
There's absolutely no obligation to anybody to be on the panel, Neil. So when you say have a union meeting, we aren't unionised.
Oh, we're unionized, and I'm the delegate, and there will be a meeting today. You don't have to be there, boss.
From the person who produces the show, there's no obligation for anybody to be here. If we started the show and there was no one here, which has happened, I'd just carry on as normal. The show must go on. Speaking of shows going on for 5 hours, shout out to who was it that gave me that super chat? I can't actually read it. Michael Jones, thank you very much indeed. So yesterday's Uncut and After show was brilliant. Well, thank you very much. We were just giving props to Witsit for being an absolutely outstanding moderator. One of the rare occasions where you're trying to make a point, your opponent's trying to hijack the point and just basically take the discussion off the rails so they don't have to address it. Witsit, like a shining, beaming angel, stepped in, reiterated the point and pointed out that the opponent hadn't addressed it. You're like, I can feel all of the tension seeping into my chair as Witsit did that. It was epic. So thank you, Witsit. Very much appreciated.
He actually did it a couple of times.
He did.
And I was very, very proud of him. When that kid's like that, let me tell you something. He'll tear you apart.
That kid.
There's no question about it.
Have you got 2 kids? That kid.
I call him a kid because he's younger than me. That's all. I'm 59. So Witsit, I liked him when I first seen him. His debating, he was great. And then he went off on this Ether tangent, and I can't get behind it because it can't be validated. That's my only issue. When he's and the fact that he's constantly debunking the globe, well, we don't have to know more. But I think he's getting on board.
Maybe. I mean, Witsit's his own man. He can do his own thing. And yeah, I'm sure occasionally our cross paths will cause a bit of antagonistic behaviour between our parties because there's things that we disagree with. But moving forward, who cares? Got a silver bullet. Again, in the pre-show, we were comparing, or I was suggesting that a year from now we should compare. Hold on, just a loud bang. Can you keep the conversation going a second? I've just heard a loud bang outside my door.
Yeah, I wanted to say something else too. As we're talking about that, he came in at the right time and backed Nathan up, and I like that because it shows that no matter what, the argument counts. And Nathan has a good one because it's reality, and Witsit shut it down, backed him up, reiterated the point at least 3 times. And he's got a way of breaking things down that very, very, does it very well. That's all I can say.
I thought it was a
So
pop
keep it up.
fuse. It was my eldest daughter sitting on a bag of chips, as you would call them, or crisps, as we would call them, and it just went pop. You know, when you hear that sound, if you're familiar with electrical things going bang, they normally make a kind of popping sound. That's what it sounded like to me. And it's like, no, I've just sat on this bag of crisps. Fine.
That's how we open our chips up in America. We pop them.
Oh, we don't do that here. Anyway, yeah, so check out yesterday's show. If you remember, you can see that now. I did scan through it. It was a very long show, so I didn't get a chance to listen to the entirety, but I skipped through to various bits that I knew were of significance and listened to them back. And yeah, it was a good show. Much obliged. That would be to Earth Awakening server for having us. Thank you very much indeed. I've agreed that I will contact you via one of the moderating team. That would be most likely Righteous Force or Be With a Buzz, if we're going to pop our way by in future, so we're not just dropping by unexpectedly. As a novice with Discord, again discussed in the pre-show, I can only ask forgiveness rather than permission when it comes to these things. But in the future, my moderating team have told me off effectively. I've been reprimanded by Righteous Force in terms of my disgusting behaviour. So we will contact you in advance. Geo, that is. Anyway, that's an aside that maybe shouldn't be in a live show, but there we go. Thanks to Geo and Earth Awakening server. Check them out. Any other thanks I need to offer? Any props to any of the participants from yesterday, Neil, that you can remember or of note?
No, I just wanted to give a shout out to Earth Awakenings. They stepped back and they pretty much handed it to you, and that you when it was like it was your show. So I like when they do things like that.
Yeah, it couldn't be more hospitable, right? Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That was Geo. He was like, this has now become, what's yours is mine. You can operate this server as you see fit if you want to kick people out, etc. And I was like, I don't actually know how to.
Yeah, because it could be like a pride thing can get in the way, and I'm glad that it did it. It just stepped back, and yeah, here you go. Keep it going. That's the impression I got. So I was glad.
What did they used to call us? Like reality deniers or something to that effect back in the day? Was it reality deniers? I can't remember what we used to get called as flat earthers, but one of the
Science deniers.
Science deniers is one of them, but it was more like physics deniers or physical reality deniers or something like that. Somebody will mention it in the chat. I can't remember what it was. Going back 5 or 6 years, there was a certain type of denial of reality that we were accused of being as a group by stereotype. That you just want to deny reality was the sentiment, right? And on that after show yesterday, a recurring theme, not just propped up by Bev, I might add, is that people who come across the arguments that we propose in terms of measurements of Earth as a flat plane are both acknowledged, because that's how it's actually done, and then denied to be the ground. That would be the ground that you're navigating, the ground that you're building on, the ground that you're mapping, charting, measuring angles with respect to the ground, right? That you're clearly defining and describing and detailing and debating about in a discussion about the nature of the Earth, the ground. The moment it comes to us getting our opponents to concede that they are indeed measuring Earth flat by way of how it's actually measured, they deny that it's the ground. Well, it's not the ground. When we get to the awful truth that we're measuring Earth flat. And I find that quite amusing. I just thought I'd drop that in. And now I'm on my own, so I'm going to be completely dependent on the Discord server because Neil's now buggered off. So, mush, if you're still there, chatting away with me. If not, we're going to be covering a video shortly because there's literally no one. Oh, there we go. Problem solved.
Phone drives me crazy.
Yeah,
I keep hanging up.
You hang it up instead of pressing the mute button. Okie dokie. Right, we have actually got a video to cover today. So Divergent Droid dropped this in and said it was recommended by an FED member, which is the... Let's give it the title with it on screen. Let's just bring it up. This is called... Wow, it's a big old title. The History of the Flat Earth Myth, in all capitals. Why do people think the Earth is flat? ? Flat Earthers debate. And this was from History Calling Channel. So, hopefully, if you're a regular watcher, you know the routine. I'm going to stick the link to History Calling Channel in the live stream chat right now and invite you all. Is it already there by Divergent Droid? Maybe. He's normally way ahead of me. And it's him that recommended it. So yeah, go and let this videographer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And just allude to the fact that we are covering their video in response, so that hopefully they would do the same for us if they were to respond to our critique, let's call it, of whatever it is they have to say. I'm in no doubt that we'll be critiquing things here on this video as it's specifically about us. So let them know so that they could potentially put a link to my video in theirs if they were to ever do a response. So this is a fairly recent video. It's about a week old. And yeah, check it out by way of comment left on their video, letting them know that I sent you. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So I'll carry on doing this call to action for a couple more seconds just to get a few people from the live chat to actually disappear along. There's like 60 odd people watching live right now. So hopefully a few of you will actually go and do this while I'm calling you to action. But yeah, so in summary, the history of the flat earth myth. Why do people think the earth is flat? Flat earthers debate is the name of the video. And yeah, please let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. It'd be nice to get a link to our video from one of these videographers. We'll see how it goes. I haven't actually sound checked this, so I should really do that first.
Here's some knowledge of the ancients this week on History Calling as I look at the history of the flat earth myth. I'll be asking, did Europeans
Flat earth myth. Okay. Why would you phrase it that way?
in the past really think that the earth was flat, or have
That's how it's measured. So in terms of people's thoughts on the matter, they're irrelevant when we're actually mapping and charting and navigating and building on it flat. That's how it's dealt with. But what you will now focus on, I can tell within 12 seconds of the video, is how people's thoughts and feelings relate to this subject matter as a subject matter rather than an empirical measurement.
many, and now most human beings, accepted that the world is round for millennia, even
Oh, really? So when we have songs about Christopher Columbus being laughed at because he thought the world was round, when everybody around him thought it was flat, and the great revelation that is the notion of it being a sphere by way of spherical inference about 300 years ago is actually people thinking that the Earth was a sphere for millennia. No, that's part of the bullshit narrative that's been inserted that gives us the notion that the Greeks thought it was a sphere. Well, no, it was mapped and charted and measured flat throughout that entire period.
before Christopher Columbus famously sailed to North America in 1492.
And why is that of note? Because he's noting it's a sphere where everyone thought it was flat, but yet they all thought it was flat for millennia. This is a contradiction in terms.
And didn't fall off the edge of the planet. I'll share
Why would anybody be thinking that they were going to fall off an edge that's inferred by a straw man reification that you impose on flat earthers by stereotype if they all thought for millennia it was a sphere? Why would he have any notion of a straw man nonsense idea that you're now perpetuating, we say when we don't, of an edge, if he knew also from millennia that it was a sphere? He'd have no concept of an edge, would he? But yet here we are with Christopher Columbus not finding the edge that they wouldn't be thinking about if they knew for millennia. Just a complete contradiction in terms. How can they have known for millennia and then have Christopher Columbus go out and go, I wonder if I'll fall off an edge? Why would he be thinking that? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, the whole story doesn't make sense because it's been inserted into history that doesn't exist, with characters that don't exist.
quotes from classical and medieval writers with you and look at some very old maps, globes, coins, and paintings.
Old maps that are globe-shaped? I'm going to challenge you to actually provide any globe-shaped maps. They're all flat. They're all dealing with the stars and how they operate with angles measured off the flat baseline that we inhabit. So if you're going to look at maps, they're all charted using flat Earth measurements of the stars.
To demonstrate what they thought about the shape of our home.
Shape? No. The topography they might have been measuring for, elevation changes. But in terms of navigation and maps, everything's all referenced as flat, always. There is no Earth curvature. There's also no edge. There's just a territory that gets ever expanded until about 300 years ago where they started telling us it's a globe. Because he didn't find an edge? Why would he think they'd find an edge? To that period in time, all they'd done is gone further out, away from Polaris, and found, quote, new worlds. So what, Columbus thinks, based on the fact that up until now we just keep going out and finding these new worlds, I think I'm going to find an edge. Shocking, I don't. It's just a bullshit story. It's completely made up and inserted into a history that didn't exist. And it also contradicts the what, parallel narrative that we already knew it was spherical for millennia?
And how they reached their conclusions. I'll also explain where and why the popular notion that our medieval ancestors thought the world was flat originated.
Who cares what they thought? We can easily demonstrate how it's charted, mapped, navigated, and built on flat. The measurements prove it's flat, because it is flat, and that's how it's dealt with. But we're going to focus on the thoughts of the ancient people and contrast them with the thoughts of people now. Who cares what people think? We can show the measurements of it being flat.
And spoiler alert, it's a much more recent idea than you might think, and
What idea? The globe idea?
it has a lot to do with the guy who wrote Sleepy Hollow.
What? You're going to attribute Flat Earth to an author? What? Clearly a complete science ignoramus. The history of flat Earth theory. Theory, you say? Well, makes it sound like it's almost scientific that you're trying to debunk. Theory, what, based on the physical and natural world and things that occur within it that we want to know the cause of. And after experimentation to figure out the cause, we can develop a theory. Yet no one's proposing flat Earth theory. It's not in a scientific genre. Right? We're talking about measurements. I mean, we're not going to get into that either, but you've positioned this such that you don't have to attack any of the measurements of Earth. Instead, you're going to attack how people think and feel about it.
Cruise around the internet for a few minutes looking.
Go and get a book on navigation. If you want to prove Earth's flat, go and figure out how it's been charted, mapped, and is still to this day navigated. And you will very quickly find that Earth is flat, because that is precisely how it is dealt with. Right up to the very top of the tree at NASA. They deal with Earth as flat. What's that you say, history lady? We should go to the comments in the internet, should we? That should be our starting point. We're talking about whether or not Earth's flat. Surely the first starting point should be, how's it measured? That should be our starting point, shouldn't it? Surely it's a category error that you're now engaging yourself in.
Up what medieval people thought
Nathan.
of the
Yes.
This is the point. They constantly accuse us of just getting all our information from the internet, and they use the internet for their information.
Shout out to Billy Philly 22. He says, I dropped these guys a comment, hopefully saying at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, so that hopefully they respond. And hopefully they put a link to my video, Billy Philly. But thank you for doing that. Hey, Chocolate, how's it going?
Good morning, everyone.
shape of the world, and you'll soon stumble across quotes like these, perpetuating the misnomer that most Europeans thought it was flat until Columbus discovered America.
Who cares? How was he getting around? Oh, he was getting around on the already charted and already positioned on a flat map, flat Earth that was measured flat with the stars and the angles that could only be measured flat if Earth was flat. That system that he was using to get his way around the world. Yeah, that was all flat. And if he got lost, he could find his way back home by way of a system of navigation that would infer that Earth's being utilised as a flat plane because it is. So, who cares what people thought? It means nothing.
Yeah, but not just that, Nathan. Followers, other people who follow the same footstep, who follow the same path to go to Americas after Columbus, had to use the same navigating system with elevation angles to the sun and the sun's position and Polaris. Using the stars once more.
Shout out to Godzilla37 for the super chat. It says, like all my comrades, I got here by reading Sleepy Hollow. Leave a like and tell him Sleepy Hollow sent me. End quote. Yeah, thank you for the super chat, Godzilla.
So did Sleepy Hollow make you a flat earther? Sorry, does Sleepy Hollow make you a flat earther, or does it make you a glober? I got confused.
I got confused too. It's just not very descriptive with who they are, but obviously from our perspective, they and conspiratorial discussions could only revolve around the people that have alluded to it being a sphere when it's measured flat. That's the conspiracy. But obviously in her brain, she thinks that we're the conspiracy and it's come from the author of Sleepy Hollow. Hence your confusion.
Came across this children's rhyme, which I'd never heard before, but that might be because we didn't do Spanish or American history in my primary school. It reads, "In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He took 3 ships with him too, and called aboard his faithful crew. Mighty strong and brave was he, as he sailed across the open sea." Some people still thought the world was flat. Can you even imagine that?
So this sounds like a propaganda poem. Propagandizing the children with a poem into, can you believe that people thought the stupidity that we're saying the opposite of? Look how stupid those people are. It's propaganda. Directly aimed at children. That's what this is.
It's a global. Okay. She also said navigating across.
Yeah. Go on, Chocolate.
No, I was just saying it's a globy nursery rhyme. It's so cute. Oh.
Now, this poem isn't entirely wrong. Some people did still think the world was flat.
Why? You've told your audience in your opener that we have known for millennia, yet people still thought it was flat? How could that be the case? Surely nobody thought it until Sleepy Hollow.
As do some people today, but it's insinuating that this was a commonly held belief.
Nobody cares about what people believe when you're about to fold out a flat map. I wonder why this map's flat and unequivocally not globe-shaped. Yeah, because that's how it's functionally operating.
In actual fact, the idea that those living in Europe before the mid-1490s mostly thought the world was a disc isn't generally true.
Or why are you presenting a flat map?
The belief, based on observable phenomena that it is spherical,
or this map,
has been around for millennia.
Or mapping the territory completely flat as is depicted on this map that you're showing was understood because you roll out a map flat, and nobody in the history of charting or mapping any territory ever has rolled it out onto a ball. Ever. So when you throw up a flat map and then say, yeah, people kind of did still think that there was a flat earth beneath their feet with a belief, and will focus on their thoughts and feelings about that belief that they held, while showing a map that's a practical tool that requires the surface to be flat so that it works with the stars. But you're going to focus on what are they actually for millennia thought it was ball-shaped, but yet there's a few people who looked at maps and went, well, the map's flat, and I'm using elevation angles that could only be on a flat surface. But obviously that's me believing that my measurements and dealings of the ground as flat are a belief in it being flat. Stupid me, believing it's flat when I measure it that way.
And plenty of people living in
when they were on it, I was saying, so when Christopher Columbus was on these ships with his crew, I think it was the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, did all 3 of them have a globe on it? And did they use that globe when they were traveling, or did they use flat maps?
No, they rolled out the chart on the table, and as they rolled it out flat and tried to figure out where they were heading, they'd turn to each other and go, you know, some people think the world's flat. Bloody idiots. Anyway, let's get back to this flat map on this flat table and figure out where we are on the world. Because it's globe-shaped.
But I thought we knew for millennia that it wasn't.
How
does it keep coming out of both sides of their mouth? Like in 1 second, we've known for millennia we live on a magical spinning water ball, and then the next second it's like a few hundred years ago people were still thinking it's flat. Which one is it?
Or we could just take both statements to be true. So even though, according to you, everyone knew it was a ball for millennia people have persisted in their flat earth belief again, according to you. See, as far as beliefs and thoughts go, that's a pretty persistent thought to be in opposition to what you claim to be true. Why would they need to have opposed it for millennia? That seems a bit crazy. Surely you'd just have one silver bullet that would shut them all up forever, but yet they've been contesting it for millennia, because right up until the time of Columbus, there's still people there, after they knew millennia earlier that it was a globe, They were still contesting it. Surely, after millennia, you'd have one silver bullet to prove it was a globe. No, you don't, do you? And it's all measured and mapped flat. So that's not a good start for you and your conspiracy of a globe now, is it?
Ancient and medieval periods.
Go on, Chocolate.
No, I was just saying, yeah, you would think so. You would think you would have something after a whole millennia. That sounds like a lot of minutes, a lot of hours, days, months.
And a lot of
little
pushback.
crazy.
A lot of proactive pushback against your claim it's a globe for millennia, and you haven't got one silver bullet that's been able to shut people up in millennia, because they still think it's flat to this day, according to you, with your claim it's just a belief, when your flat map says otherwise. You know what I mean?
It's new and accepted this theory.
It's not a theory, you're in a category error.
I can't list all the evidence here for you for reasons of time.
Oh, really? I'll do a pretty bang-up job of proving Earth's flat with one piece of evidence. That's celestial navigation. As you've got a globe on screen and have just shown us a flat map. The way that the Earth has been charted and navigated is with these lines that you've got on this globe. Those lines, the longitude and latitude lines, have been derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements of the Sun and Polaris to give you that grid, measured off a flat plane, to then wrap it around this globe. The lines on this globe prove Earth's measured flat, because without Earth being measured flat, you wouldn't have these lines on this globe. How do those lines then get put back onto a flat map from the globe? Well, the Mercator projection. Unlike the map she had up earlier, I don't know what that map was, I'm unfamiliar with maps. Not that I need to be familiar when I know how they function in terms of how the stars are used, with angles measured to them. Or the sun, as we discussed yesterday in the case of latitude. But all of these lines are derivations of measurements off a flat Earth to give you your globe inference. But when you're actually charting, mapping, and navigating your way around the ground, you're using angle measurements with respect to how it's charted. That's flat. That's how it's done. That's how it's measured. There's my proof. There's my evidence. Not that I need any evidence. That's how it's done. Everybody on every side of this discussion accepts that Earth is measured flat, because it is. There's my proof. There's my silver bullet.
Yeah, but the horizontal baseline does not mean the ground. They're not talking about the ground, Nathan.
When we describe a horizontal plane of reference, and my opponent yesterday told me that it's not the ground, I asked him to define what the word reference was, and he said something that you'd physically measure. So I said it's the horizontal plane that we physically measure that you say isn't the ground when we're navigating the ground. Yeah, they're idiots who are in denial because it contradicts their Fundy globe belief. Their belief trumps all proof and evidence to the point where when you're navigating the ground and measuring the ground, and that's flat, your opponent will tell you it's not the ground. That's the situation we're in.
Yeah, that guy snatched his own wig off with that one. That was terrible.
But I'll give you a few examples which cover over 1,000 years of history to make my point, and show you how people...
Now, let's just see what she's got up her proverbial sleeve here. This should be interesting.
People of the past worked out the shape of the world long before the dawn of the space age.
Okay, that's baseless assertion. Let's see what we've got to back it.
Aristotle noted in his work about the heavens, written in around 350 BC, that there was some dispute about whether the planet was round or flat, but pointed out that the Earth must be spherical because how else would eclipses of the moon show segments shaped as we see them?
So we're going to beg the question that an eclipse, which I've observed with my own eyes turning red, which is a statement of such... I'm typically not great with red, but for me to note that the moon has turned red during a lunar eclipse takes all doubt away from my mind whatsoever that there's a shadow being cast on it. But by automatic fiat and begging the question assumption of orbital motion, you would assume that if Earth is automatically assumed to be a sphere in an assumed orbital motion, its sphericity would cause the moon to turn red. I mean, you can call that a shadow if you like. No, that's called a begging the question fallacy. It's circular reasoning. Earth must be a sphere because if Earth is a sphere, it as a sphere would cast a shadow / turns red, whatever you want to call it. No, this is garbage. This doesn't prove anything.
As it is, the shapes which the moon itself each month shows are of every kind, straight.
Well, that's not an eclipse. You're talking about moon phases. Oh, she's completely idiotic and doesn't know the difference. Wow.
Gibbous and concave, but in eclipses, the outline is always curved. And since it is the interposition of the Earth that makes...
So if I assume Earth is a sphere casting a shadow, then it matches with my parallel that I infer is because Earth is a sphere making a shadow. It's called circular reasoning.
The eclipse, the form of this line will be caused by the form of the Earth's surface.
And why does it go red? Is that because Earth's surface heats it up? I mean, what the hell? It makes absolutely no sense. It's not a shadow. But if you beg the question that Earth's a sphere and Earth's going to be causing shadows on other elliptically moving motions in the sky based on moon orbits, then it's a shadow that turns red. Yeah, that's crap. Circular reasoning. Shout out to Billy Philly. She's a textbook knowledge only. I don't think she's coming. Shout out to Neil, by the way. Fist bump. Thank you, Billy Philly.
Which is therefore spherical. Again, our observations of the stars make it evident not only that the Earth is circular, but also that it is a circle of no great size.
Now we got this word circular. So we observe the stars and Earth is circular. Where's the connection? So far, that's a complete non sequitur. We observe the stars, therefore surface is circular. This is going a bit sideways.
For quite a small change of position to south or north causes a manifest alteration of the horizon.
What, the position when establishing a horizontal plane of reference to measure the angular difference in degrees of these stars? You're going to need a flat Earth for this.
There is much change, I mean, in the stars which are overhead, and the stars seen are different as one moves northward or southward.
So the recession, the degree with respect to the horizon, changes as you move north or south. Yeah, that's a statement of truth. What that's called is a half affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy, because she hasn't given the other half of the fallacy. She's just said, if P, then Q. Okay? If we move north, we see the stars change. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I'll accept that. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. Whoa, 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 whoa! What? Yeah, but we do see the stars change as we go south. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. No, it's completely non sequitur to show me lights changing as I move towards the horizon, nay, detail their angular differences with respect to a horizontal baseline when describing it with respect to the horizon, exactly as you did. You will require a flat Earth to describe those differences. That's how they're described. But you somehow think that the non sequitur of moving towards the horizon and seeing stars change means we're on a sphere. Absolutely not. Half of an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy.
Another big leap forward came when the Greek polymath...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
She's already laid out the fallacy, though. Before starting this, what did she say? That she was basically going to give a whole list of things that prove that we're on a sphere, right? So she's already laid out the Q, therefore P. So each one of these it can be a self-contained if Q, therefore, or if P, therefore Q.
Oh, that's a beautiful catch. That's excellent. What Chocolate's pointing out is, by summary in the first part of the video, she's summarised the end of the statement, therefore Earth is a sphere. Therefore, when she affirms the consequence, she doesn't have to implicitly state it as a formal logical fallacy. She can get away with only stating the first half of it. So in this instance, if Earth's a sphere, then we will observe a difference in the stars as we move from north to south or south to north. We do observe a difference when travelling from north to south or south to north in the stars. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. But she's already inserted her conclusion that these are all steps in terms of evidence that she holds to be true for proving Earth is a sphere. Ergo, she can get away with only declaring half of the fallacy. Well done, Chocolate. I didn't spot that.
A chocolate sharp boy.
He is.
Eratosthenes, who lived between about 276 and 194 BC, calculated the circumference of the Earth to
Using flat Earth angle measurements.
a surprisingly accurate degree.
A degree of accuracy in terms of his angle measurements off a flat baseline. Yeah, he's going to need a flat Earth for these angles. Eratosthenes measured Earth flat.
As if that wasn't clever enough, he was...
Sorry, what wasn't clever enough? You didn't detail a single smegging thing that he did. I pointed out that he's taking angle measurements and pointed out that it proves a flat Earth, and you just told us how clever he is.
Also able to produce this map of the known world, which is...
Right, what did he do that was clever again, love? History calling. You've just name-dropped him and told us how clever he is, and you didn't detail a single thing he did, and then he produced this map, which is not globe-shaped. It's on a grid!
unexpectedly good when you consider when it was created.
It's flat.
You can clearly see the shape of Western Europe, including the boot of Italy and...
Where do we see the globe edge horizon on this map? Where do we see a sphere Earth radial value on this map? Where do we see Earth curve on this map?
The presence of Britain and Ireland. By the start...
What the hell? Moving on? Excuse me, aren't you supposed to be pointing out how it was so bloody obvious for millennia that we all knew we were on a sphere with constant references to maps that are flat, and then showing us a globe that has got flat Earth, longitude and latitude plotted onto it? Those lines that were on your globe, the only thing that you've inferred globeness with so far, had flat Earth measurements on it.
Of the 1st century AD, the Greek author Strabo, who was born in modern-day Turkey and died...
Anyone familiar with Strabo? There's a new one on everyone? Exciting.
In about the year 23, was recording that knowledge of the Earth's shape was now commonplace amongst the educated, saying, "Now what we are taught by the physicists is as follows. The universe and the heavens are sphere-shaped. The tendency of the bodies that have weight is..."
Sorry, the universe and the heavens are sphere-shaped. So that would be like taking perspective measurements of the angular relationships of the stars, giving you an inference of a spherical disposition when measured off a flat plane. Because that's precisely what he said. He didn't say the ground. Universe and heavens. Now, even by your own estimation on a globe, that's the sky that he's saying is spherical. And we can infer it based on the celestial sphere model on a flat plane, which is where all of your globe inference comes from. Flat plane measurements of angles to the star, giving you a perspective inference that looks like a dome over you for north and south. Oh, you'll love this word. Hemisphere. Of the stars, not the ground. That's all flat.
Towards the centre, and having taken its position about this centre in the form of a sphere...
Or is this picture, maybe it's a photograph, from, what did she say, 25 AD? Is this a picture from Jesus' time? Or is this maybe a modern-day interpretation of him holding a globe?
The Earth remains homocentric with the heavens. Later...
Sorry, what? Remains what centric with the heavens? What was that word?
Towards the centre, and having taken its position about this centre in the form of a sphere, the Earth remains homocentric with the heavens. Later in the...
Homocentric?
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Is that just a new one on me? What does that mean? Let's have a look. Homocentric. Having the same centre. Okay. Learn something new every day. So Earth and the universe have the same center.
What is it called, Nathan?
Homocentric.
Homocentric.
Yes. So again, having the same center when you're describing the sky and universe as being spherical, that's how we actually created the celestial sphere. But that's the sky being inferred to be spherical by way of a perspective view that you would have, polar-centric if you're doing it that way. So a polar-centric view of the world would give you a perspective view of the stars at your limitational horizon, mapped out as though it's a semicircle over your head. But that's the stars. That's what they're describing. So saying we've got a single point that Earth and stars are mapped from, yeah, I can describe a flat plane, and this is how it's done, with Polaris at its centre, with all the territory being mapped out from that central point, with the dome of the heavens, semicircular or semi-spherical, over the top of it. The stars, that is. But the plane, in order to infer any of this, would have to be utilised in order to get any of the angle measurements to describe the sky as spherical, because it isn't. Obviously not.
She's trying to mention the latitude line that you'll need to acquire from this center point that she's talking about.
Yeah, if you're talking about measuring spherically in terms of mapping, you're talking about Polaris, therefore Earth-centric, Polaris-centric, sky-centric, same point for both. Doesn't give you a spherical ground, which is what she's claiming this proves, first and foremost, it doesn't. But what has actually been done and mapped is a flat perspective view with Polaris at the beginning point of that measurement. That is to say, it's at your zenith, above your head. And then everything that comes out in concentric circles is mapped flat. That is to say, if you were to move away from Polaris, Polaris itself would drop towards the horizon. That's an angular representation of Polaris that you can measure and do, and that's how it's done, flat. So this in absolutely no way whatsoever implies or infers sphericity by purely based on what he said. So what if you've got a Earth-centric position that's the same as the sky? Yeah, I can describe that, and it's how Earth's mapped with Polaris. Wowee, doesn't make Earth spherical.
Century, in around AD 77, the Roman writer Pliny the Elder said in his work entitled Natural History, "We all agree on the Earth's shape."
Who gives a crap what this dusty old fart agrees on? It's measured flat? But you're going to cite some feelings of some dusty old tosser? Who cares if he agrees that we've got unicorns? Does it matter? We agree that it's spherical. Wow, do you understand that it's measured flat? Because that's how it's been mapped and charted.
Surely we always speak of the round ball of the Earth.
Do we now, when we're measuring it and charting it and finding our way around it and discovering new worlds on it flat? I'm going to go with no.
He also noted that the ability to see less of large objects from further away and more of them as one
What, like perspective?
Gets close, which proved and still proves the Earth's curvature.
Right, you having a laugh?
Wow.
So the narrative is such that perspective, which is omitted from a orthographic representation of Earth in the form of the Earth curve calculator, is actually proving Earth's curvature. So this is an embedded confession. Contrary to proving Earth's curvature, perspective is used to claim Earth curvature, but you don't call it perspective. You call it Earth curvature when it actually is perspective. So this is very, very telling, and part of the narrative that I did not know until now. So as much as I'm critical, history calling, you're going to get props.
Wait, hold on. You mean the thing that we were told, we were made fun of for believing, or for saying exists in reality, perspective? The thing that we were told literally flat earthers made that up. That thing is now what's claimed to be proof of the globe?
Yeah, initially,
wow, times have changed.
But it's written way back in the history that is obviously completely fabricated. Clearly, this is part of a modern day narrative that's only existed for the last 300 years, where someone claimed to be much older than that is stating that we have curvature as a result of perspective. No, we have perspective, and you called it Earth curve.
They have no idea what orthographic view means. It goes over their heads.
Oh, the claim of Earth curvature comes in an orthographic format. That is to say, you see the side of your own head and the target at the same time, and the ground is curved, and perspective is completely omitted from the calculator, because it is a differential calculation that gives you the point of optical resolution loss. And that calculation, true and accurate, though it may or may not be depending on the circumstances or weather, is then claimed to be Earth curve. In reality, the Earth curve calculator's a perspective calculator. Tells you when you're going to lose the point of resolution based on height. That's all it does. But you can call it Earth curve in the title and then dupe everyone into thinking the perspective is actually Earth curve, when there is no perspective when looking side on in an orthographic view. That's not how the calculator works. It completely hijacks perspective. We've even given it a title, love. History calling. Begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. Now, after 10 years of research into this subject, I can assure you with your cursory glance over the thoughts and feelings of men that have been written into this narrative, bears no credence in terms of proving Earth's flat or spherical, because it's measured flat. That's all that matters. That's how it was mapped in every one of your examples. That's how the territories were discovered. That's how it was charted, and it's how it's built on.
Saying that this explains why...
I just want to reiterate how out the gate, because I know there might be a lot of people in this now that weren't in this maybe 6-7 years ago, but literally what we were told when we were trying to argue about perspective being a thing in reality that everybody experiences is that we're making that up. Perspective doesn't exist. It's something that only exists in art class, and flat earthers are ridiculous for even talking about it. That's literally some of the things that we were told when we first started out here.
Yeah, when we first started pointing out that there is no perspective in Earth curve mathematics, and that the only reason things can disappear into the distance is if Earth curve gets in the way of them. That's the only cause of things disappearing. Therefore, you have no angular size relationships in Earth curve mathematics. It's purely a geometric assertion that a physical limitation in orthographic view blocks your view, and then the calculations that actually take place work out the difference between height of eye versus surface level, flat, to say where an inferred point below surface level, Earth curve, will be representing a point of resolution loss in the distance when comparing a horizontal horizon across your field of view with a single point marked with an X and labelled horizon in begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve mathematics.
Why the land is not visible from the deck of a ship when in sight from the masthead, and why, as a vessel passes far into the distance, if some shining object is tied to the top of the mast, it appears slowly to sink, and finally it is hidden from sight.
If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance that physical geometric limitation to your view called Earth curve could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, based on her claim. The distance to the horizon in the Black Swan, as we have fondly named it, is beyond the physical geometric limitations of a physical Earth curve hill getting in the way of things like oil rigs, which would be at 1.2 miles, as per a 1 foot observer height in the observation. The distance to horizon in that image, not at 1 mile, not at 5 miles, but beyond oil rigs at 10 miles, debunks the assertion that we have a physical hill based on geometry of a sphere Earth blocking our view of anything. The horizon's not a hill, it was debunked in 2020.
This sentiment was echoed in the 2nd century by Claudius Ptolemy, who came from the Egyptian city of Alexandria, though his name suggests Greek descent. He wrote in his Almagest that,
"I think Earth's a sphere, and we all agree."
Whenever we sail towards mountains or any high places, from whatever angle, in whatever direction...
Whatever angle? See, when you're measuring angles of heights of mountains, you're going to need a flat plane for it. Al-Biruni of a similar time period is claimed to have measured the height of a mountain to derive the differential that's now used in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator to infer that he can derive a geometric radial value for a sphere Earth based on a height of a mountain taken with an angle or two off a flat plane, to then go up it and use mathematics for a differential calculation to the horizon at surface level to say that you can infer, through trig, a radial value for a sphere Earth with a ground that you just measured flat, now falling away from you. So when he says angle, I say you'll need a flat Earth for it. And he will.
We see their bulk little by little increasing, as if they were arising from the sea, whereas before they seemed submerged because of the curvature of the water.
So not because of perspective. Only 3 minutes earlier you told us that hashtag shit shrinks. Yeah, we know, perspective's a real thing. But now, perspective isn't the reason the boat's coming back. It's because a hill is precluding our view or allowing it to recede into a position where the hill's blocking it. Yeah, that would be a physical geometric limitation to your view called Earth curve, debunked by the Black Swan in 2020. If the Earth was a sphere radius 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to horizon in the Black Swan is beyond that limitation, therefore Earth is not a sphere. We have debunked Earth curve edge geometry that hijacked perspective. But yet here you are telling us the only reason a boat comes back. What happened to perspective? Yeah, we know things get bigger as you get closer to them. Yeah, shocking. But yet now the only reason, according to this numpty, is because it's an Earth curve edge that's precluding you from seeing it.
Water's surface.
Wait, I'm sorry.
In all
I'm
cases,
confused. To the Globers that said that we never claimed to have a geometric horizon, what is she claiming right now? Exactly.
You're saying that while they know it's perspective that's Earth curve, it's just Earth curve hills getting in the way. Nothing to do with the boat getting bigger as it comes towards you. It's everything to do with the hill that's blocking your view of it, and that will be mapped out in an orthographic view that has a marked with an X labelled horizon single point that blocks your view according to a comparison made when you look out to sea and see perspective in action. I mean Earth curve getting in the way of boats, my bad.
Right.
Isn't she comparing these boats and these observations to the horizon? I mean, horizontal.
Yes. Yes, the differential
not a sphere,
calculation
then?
that we call Earth curve mathematics also requires a horizontal surface level and eye level to give you the differential to make that assertion. In other words, the flat Earth calculator that gives you resolution loss, relabeled Earth curve maths, would require a horizontal plane of reference also. That's correct.
These men were correct, and their observations of lunar eclipses, stars, boats, and
boats, as in the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator debunked by the Black Swan, and because of assumed orbital motion causing shadows. Begging the question and affirming the consequent.
They're going to need a flat plane for that as well. You're going to need an elevation angle to the sun and another one to the moon to predict that they're going to be the same elevation from the ground in order for one to obstruct the other.
Oh, you beautiful
they're going to need a flat plane for that.
Oh, you beautiful man. Why did I miss that? I love it. I love my panel. Yeah, you'll need a flat plane to derive orbital motions. You mentioned Ptolemy. How do you think they came up with orbits? Oh, that would be by measuring the differences in the angles off a flat plane. Yeah, that's a big problem for orbital motion now, isn't it? So when you claim that there's an orbital motion causing a shadow that turns the moon red, that description is derived from flat Earth measurements also to give you orbits. Maybe you were unaware that orbits has its heart and origin in a flat Earth measurement. Maybe you were unaware of that when you were blarting out that it proves a sphere because of the shadows that you assume turns the moon red.
Mountains may still be made today. They didn't need fancy modern technology to work out.
And yet the modern fancy technology that we use in the form of a sextant, wow, how fancy is that angle measuring device, establishes Earth and measures Earth as a horizontal plane of reference, so we can use it with the flat maps and the flat areas of equal elevation when charting positions. It's all flat, love.
That the Earth is round.
Nope.
They simply opened their eyes, took a look around,
measured it flat, charted it flat, and discovered the world's beyond their current horizon in an area they deemed to be called outer space back then. That's what they did flat. Nothing was globe-shaped. And the thoughts, feelings, and discussions of learned men had no bearing on how Earth was being mapped and charted. Flat.
applied the most basic tenets of common sense and logic.
So we're going to use common sense and logic to figure out the shape of the Earth, in quotes, when they're mapping and charting it flat? Why would we use common sense when we can measure the thing? Got LiDAR.
She's still using angles.
Yes.
She's still using angles. It doesn't work angles on a sphere.
No, she said basic tenets of common sense and logic. There's no angles in that. And there's no inference of a measurement in that. There's just men babbling to each other about how smart they are when they infer the logic of the shape of an Earth that's being measured, charted, navigated, and discovered as flat.
And boom. They figured out thousands of years ago.
Go on, Chocolate.
Sorry. It's unfortunate. I don't think she's been keeping up with the globe Earth debate. Because she said what? They just opened their eyes and looked around, and that proves ball. The current globe Earth debate tactic is too biggie, no curvy. So what eyes are they looking? What are they looking at with their eyes? What are they seeing? When literally in 2024 we're being told it's too big. Just checking.
Yeah, no, they don't say it's. They say of course we measure it flat, but that's because it's a really, really big ball, and we can treat it as flat when we measure it flat, like we have done when we map it and chart it and navigate it flat. We deal it like it's flat. That's because it's a really, really big ball that we measure and navigate and chart flat. Because it's perfectly reasonable to have our logic and inference and discussions amongst us old men that have been inserted into our history narrative that I have seen no primary source research for. Did she prove this guy in 23 AD existed? Did she show us some primary source research for it? I'm going to go with no, she didn't show us anything. She just repeated wiki verbatim.
What some twits with access to high-res photographs and footage of the...
Go on, Neil.
So can we say that there is no horizon in a spherical or a curving surface that would be called, like you said earlier, a curve, meaning an obstruction, but not the natural limitation of our vision or our eyes? So the horizon would be just describing a flat surface where the edges or the limits is beyond our eye limit, and there is no obstruction, physical obstruction, like a range of mountain or buildings in the distance.
Beautifully put. Yes.
So there is no horizon in a curving surface or a ball, for example, in a globe.
Yeah, yes and no. QE's done a whole presentation on this slope-a-dope, right? There is no comporting with the definition of a horizon for a glober. Their horizon isn't a horizon as per the definition of horizon. There's no deviation in terms of what a horizon represents. The deviation would be a slope or a curve, but that doesn't meet the criteria for defining what a horizon actually is, and moreover, what it's practically applied for.
Correct.
And we say
Not just horizontal's definition is to run parallel to the horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it cannot have a horizontal sphere.
It's so biggy, it's flatty, man. We measure it flat, and it's perfectly reasonable to do so because it's so big.
So you're not listening, Nathan. Listen to what he said. You can't say so biggy flatty after that statement. It don't work.
It's not the ground.
Never mind the clouds.
Never mind the ground that we're measuring and then mapping and charting and navigating and finding our way on. This measurement of the ground isn't the ground. Okay? We all clear?
The planet taken from outer space still count.
What would be inappropriate?
To measure for curvature, man. Planet Peterson.
It would be inappropriate to measure for curvature.
That's just Planet
That's
Peterson,
what he said. That's right.
Did somebody say that?
Apparently.
Yeah, Planet Peterson said that.
We
I
cover
said
that
that
tomorrow.
yesterday, man.
Did you manage to
Yeah,
get
man.
any timestamps for it?
I didn't, man. I'm at work. I'm in New York.
Wait. It's inappropriate to measure the curvature of the Earth, said by a
Literally,
glober.
word for word, word for word.
This is
It would
somebody
be
responding,
inappropriate to
Planet
measure.
Peterson, he's right.
This is somebody responding to our newly revised, polished up, front-footed attempt to basically spew to our audience how Earth's measured flat. And the response is, it would be inappropriate to measure it curved.
You think, Nathan, it would be easy if we can prove that the atmospheric conditions just lower the horizon, but not the opposite, never make the horizon appear higher than it can? Because there is a difference between the horizon in a flat surface, like in our reality, and the curve in a ball. The curve, it's if there is no atmospheric condition, it would have to appear lower than the eye level. And in a flat surface, it have to appear in eye level. So in our reality, the atmospheric conditions always just lower the horizon. But in their paradigm, it does the opposite. The atmospheric conditions make the horizon appear higher. So if we prove that the atmospheric conditions just lower the horizon but never do the opposite, because we can't see the horizon above eye level, never ever. If there is some, we can see the sky meeting the earth above eye level, it have to be just an obstruction, a hill,
I don't need
mount
to.
range.
Okay, I appreciate this lovely new false dichotomy that may be set up in terms of us demonstrating or setting out to demonstrate how the horizon behaves. There's no need. Number one, I have no positive claim to make about the horizon. What's that you say? Surely your positive claim is that celestial navigation... No. Celestial navigation is what it is. The fact that celestial navigation is utilising, measuring and mapping and charting and doing all the things that require Earth to be flat is what it is. It's not a claim. It's not something I'm postulating for debate. That's a fact. For everyone. Not just me, not just globe believers. Everyone. So that's not up for discussion. So in that process, celestial navigation, what do we do with the horizon? Oh, what? To save my life if I'm lost at sea? Yeah, you better damn well know how you will practically apply that horizon that you're going to use to save your life if you're going to go out to sea on this boat. So do you know how to save your own life by practically applying this thing we see in the distance and call a horizon? You do, so you might be able to find your way back home if you get lost, using the stars and this system of measuring Earth flat. Good. Now that we know how it's practically applied, do I need to trouble myself with setting up a little false dichotomy about what it may or may not do, given that it's saved countless lives in practical application? No, I don't. I don't need to do anything.
No. We're moving away from that. And I'm sorry, I don't like the term atmospheric. I could be nitpicking, but come on, we're assuming that gas is a sphere. I don't like
Not just, we're also assuming that the horizon's position is a physical location, ignoring the fact that it moves with the weather.
Then say weather.
Your point of resolution doesn't change its practical application. So maybe you need to go back and listen to the 10th band presentations. Thank God we had him to go through this, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to address that. No, in terms of how it's used, it doesn't make any difference. If you've got a really foggy day and you're out on a boat, yeah, it kind of begs the question how you'd be measuring the stars, but nevertheless, you can still use the sextant to achieve the exact same thing. Wherever that horizon is, if you can see it, you can measure it and establish a horizontal plane of reference with it, regardless of how far or near the point of optical dissolution becomes due to the weather. It is still a point where the ground merges into the sky, and that ground is flat, and that is what you are measuring. What it represents itself as in the distance as a horizon, if one is available, it can and is utilised to establish a horizontal plane of reference. That is its practical use if you have one available. It doesn't matter how far you can see. This notion of it being beyond the oil rigs, how is that in any way changing the surface level? It isn't. So you've got a really clear day and you can see the surface level further out. Yeah, you can. It's still the same surface level. What about when it's really foggy and that surface level optical point that you can see that we call the horizon's quote unquote closer, not higher or lower, closer. You can't see the oil rigs at all now. Yeah, I can still use that horizon to establish a horizontal baseline and find my way at sea with a sextant if I can see the stars. That's what it's used for.
Yeah, you create an artificial horizon.
Your observation of the horizon, regardless if it's near or far, is still on horizontal, meaning left to right. Regardless if it's closer to you or further away from you, doesn't matter. You're still establishing the horizontal. That's what it matters.
It is because of what it represents. It's representing your point of dissolution for the ground, which is flat. So this is why Brian, and I'm glad he did, jumped down my throat when I said it wasn't important to labour dip correction. Why are we doing dip correction? To get the angle that's slightly above the flat ground that we're correcting to. We get it back on the flat ground that we're looking at when we look at the horizon. Because what is the horizon? Well, it's the flat ground in the distance, as far as you can see. But that's what we're using. We're using a point that we represent as the ends of where we can see the flat ground. Because that's what's being used. Earth is actually flat, and that is the practical tool that we use to do our measurements and navigate our way around that surface that is flat. So because the ground is flat, we can utilize the horizon as a tool. And because we're not literally with our eyeballs in the water, there's a minor correction to the flat ground that offers us this tool in the form of the horizon. It's because it's flat that we can use it. The ground, that is. What's that you say? Now we're measuring it flat and using it flat and having it have a practical application in terms of the way the world is to find our way around. Because we're doing that with the ground, it isn't the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Nathan. And because we know that it is flat and we use it because we know that the ground is flat, if we don't see the horizon because a foggy day or a pitch black night, for example, it's a pitch black night, you don't see anything. You don't see the horizon, you don't see the surface of water, you don't see anything. So you establish an artificial horizon that is really at eye level. So yeah, you make an artificial one that is copying the real one. If there is no weather and it's clear day, it's no weather conditions, so you will see it at eye level.
Yeah, and you can run that parallel to the ground at any altitude. And because any level runs parallel with the horizon, that is to say, parallel with the flat ground that you're actually going to be navigating in this instance, you can run that eye level, as you're going to describe it, or laser level, whatever you're going to use, bubble level, because it's parallel with the ground. In all instances, always, everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
because mariners use a bucket with water or something that contains water, because the surface of that water will remain level regardless of the rocking of the boat.
Yeah,
that's why the mariner, yeah, correct. That's why the mariner needs to rock the sextant to make sure that it's running parallel to it.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on Ko-Fi and Patreon and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
That proves the radius of the Earth. Have you?
Strabo, and you're a philosopher.
I've never heard of him.
Don't worry, Adam. We just got a lot more of. We've known for millennia that we live on a magical spinning sphere, but also a few hundred years ago, people also thought it was flat. We got a lot of that crap today.
Yeah, philosopher. There you go. What are they doing?
Yeah, just normal day.
I'm looking it up. I don't know a lot. I've heard the name and enough to know is he a philosopher, but that's it.
I never heard the name. Neither has Nathan.
Well, I'll have a read about that.
I don't know. I'm not sure about what I'm about to say, but I don't have any proof about it also. But I think the one, if it was a person, the one who created the word horizon was definitely creating it for a flat surface, for a flat Earth. Because if he were talking about the horizon being at eye level, why would he say that if he knows that the horizon on a globe Earth would be at 1.2 miles? The description he created for the definition of that word wouldn't be accurate for a globe at all.
I like you, Necros.
That's correct. It's the Black Swan.
Where have you emerged from?
Huh?
I like the cut of your jib. I'm trying to figure out who you are because I don't think I've seen you before. What happened?
I'm an Arab. I'm Moroccan.
Sorry, I was just researching Strabo. I know they always smell it. There you go. 1469. You can never really go back that far in history. So the first real point you get in is 1469. The rest will be made up history. Sorry.
Did you hear me call her? I called her on that in the live stream. Did you hear me?
No, I've not heard it. That's why I asked the lads what's happened today. But
it got to a point where I was like, okay, right, you've done no primary source research for these characters that have been inserted into history. Because I know already that she hasn't.
That's the point. There is no primary evidence for these people. This is why you go back to find out what's the earliest mention of them in somebody's statement that they read a book years and years ago or was shown a book, and this is what they remember from the book, and that's all you get. A lot of the early church fathers are like that. You never actually get their original writings. You've only got people's commenting on their writings.
And that's how you'd insert stuff into history, isn't it? Yep. And who knows how they've been inserted back engineered into history, or if those were actually the originators and they've conjured them out of thin air by describing how they existed back in the day. And then from them describing them how they existed when they conjured them, which may be very well the case if that primary source research turned out to be true, you can prove that that person conjured the idea of this character. But that's about all you can prove. But that isn't what's being postulated in the source. I mean, no doubt. It's a different standard. I hate the standard. I hate the history standard. I think it's really wishy-washy. What do you think?
It's a very, very, very different standard. It's nothing to do with proof. It's about coming up with a set of events. Well, you know, I was criticising Occam's razor yesterday for anything that we're doing. It's kind of those sorts of things. You're looking for the least problems, the least narrative or the best narrative that fits the things you've got. But you always realise you're not describing history, really. You're describing the best interpretation you can find. And knowing that that's how they try to figure stuff out, is to try and see contradictions, because history is always written by the winner, isn't it? So you don't just want you don't really want the winner's report in history if you're after the truth. You want all the kind of opposing opinions to try and help you figure out the truth, don't you? Otherwise, you believe that the Twin Towers were taken down by lunatic Islamists on an error. You know what I mean?
But this is the branch I was about to bring it onto. You've just done it for me, which is fantastic. The segue that takes the history standard into conspiratard nonsense. And that you just did it in one foul swoop, didn't you? In the pre-show, I was saying, we find our way to this subject through the channels of conspiracy. or I did and you did. Might not be that way going forward, or at least I'm hoping to change the way of things, ambitious though that may be. But you find your way here through Mandela and 9/11 and vaccines and all the stuff that, you know, ends up being controversial in the YouTube guidelines, right? Conspiracy. You go, why? Why is it that you've got a pipeline, a channel to this subject with those people lining the tunnel? You go, because it's very useful to condemn your opponent and discredit your opponent if they're putting up speculation about X, Y, and Z, which is all it is if it's coming from the mouths of a YouTuber. If it's documented, like this is, oh well, then it's real. And this is what they babbled about. They all said it was a sphere amongst themselves back in the day. Therefore, sphere. You're like, yeah. I mean, let's just pretend for a minute that you had all the primary source research and every single word of that was true. A lot of old men sat around in a room and told each other it was a sphere, and then they babbled their way through a logical fallacy with eclipses. But therefore it's true because you've satisfied the history standard. You're like, how is that any different to some conspiratard talking about 9/11? Very comparable, I would say. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. See.
I agree with you, Adam. I was going to say the same thing. Look at the history we're going to hear about with 9/11. So history is shady, boy.
You don't have to be that conspiratard as such. You can just look into history. I'll tell you a really good film to watch that kind of highlights it for you is the Kingsman film, the one that's set in the Boer War. It takes all these historical things that we're taught as kids, starting with the First World War, supposedly. Yeah. Why did the First World War start, guys? Still a conspiracy theory today. Yeah, exactly.
I know, it was after the Bolshevik Revolution.
Why? Why did the assassination of the Archduke cause the two greatest superpowers that were related through their royal families to go to war?
Because it says it in the history books.
No, what I heard was when they saw what happened to the Tsars, it brought fear over all of them. And that's when they started this world war.
Neil, he's not looking for you to give him a rendition of your history knowledge. He's leading you.
I know.
Well, then just let him lead you where he wants to go. And if you don't know where he wants to go, just sit back and enjoy. Right. Your question was, what's the connection between Franz Ferdinand and the start of the war? Okay. Because when I go and look at what started the war, it says Franz Ferdinand's assassination. That's why.
Yeah. And by any standards today, that wouldn't be a reason for war. Yeah, it's fed. That's what the winners wrote. That's what we're now taught. Now, that, as you go, give it another 200-300 years, people will challenge that and history will be rewritten. Look at the Second World War. Look at what's going off there. History is written by the winners, and as long as the winners stay in power, then the history stays. That doesn't happen throughout history. History gets rewritten and rewritten by the new successive winners. And this is why you have to put it all in. This is why I said earlier, the best historical sources are the ones that aren't written by the winners.
Objection. What does historical standards have to do with what is?
Nothing. It's a complete category error for us, and I hate it. But we get dragged into it. That's the point. This entire channel that we covered today is based on that angle of debunking flat Earth with philosophy and history. And it's like, you're in a category error, love.
So what's taught? What is taught in England about the Revolutionary War? Because if you're saying it's written by the winners, well, supposedly Britain lost.
You want that tangent, don't you?
Neil's
seen that thread coming off the jumper and just wants to pull it.
No, I'm just wondering what's written in
so Neil,
in the history. How's it taught to you guys?
So we were taught that the reason it all kicked off was the taxation of tea. Is that plausible?
No, I'm saying not the cause of it. I mean the whole. Well, I guess, yeah, the cause. Yeah, it was taxation without representation, supposedly, right? The Boston Tea Party and all of that nonsense.
Hmm?
So you were taught the same thing then?
Yeah. Is it plausible? Was there representation without taxation in Britain at the time? No. It's not really a plausible thing. It's not actually a worldview. Write it historically. Oh, that'll do. That sounds good. It's like you can only look at it and then question it. But the point I'd make is it's kind of, what are we saying here? We're not demonstrating anything to do with the nature of the earth, are we? We're expressing secondary source opinion on what certain people a millennia ago may or may not have thought. Well, that's lovely, but how did they treat the world? How did they navigate the world? They navigated it flat. That's the important thing. If you look through history, you can take as many opinions as you want. These people thought this. Pythagoreans thought that. Lovely. But how did they all represent it and navigate it? And that's flat. So expressing particular opinions from one period or another is a moot point if you're looking at how it was treated.
Yeah, they had no choice, though, Adam, right? How else are they going to navigate?
Oh.
Yeah, hence, I think it's our very best focus. With that in mind, I've altered the way I'm addressing these videos as well. It's an all-encompassing attitude, isn't it? If you can take it back onto that track every single time, you take it away from, well, let's pull apart the fallacy. Let's point out how the angles that are described as being taken from a globe could be taken from a flat Earth. Like, how did this help us? In terms of the history of navigating with the stars, at what point was it beneficial to derive a radial value? How did it help in the practical application of that navigation process? Oh, it didn't. Is it used? No, it's not. Could it be used? Oh, yeah, it could be. It makes things considerably more complicated, and it does work if you infer that you can take a tangent plane that isn't to the horizon because your geometric horizon's below that. But once you've got your flat Earth measurements and you put it in hell with a sphere around it, you can infer that it does work to a fashion off a flat plane in hell. But ultimately, the way it works and the way it has worked and what we're going to be referring to is how it's mapped, navigated, flat, and always has been. And when we get to our opponents telling us that it's so biggy, it's flatty, I'm just going to take the win every time. Not concern myself with how they say, but the so biggy is blah, 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 Einstein, blah, 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 Newton, blah, 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 Kepler. Who cares? I don't need to know about your priests and your church and your religion. Measured flat.
So in doing so, we are creating proper history.
Well, it's self-awareness, self-realization, whatever you want to call it, Neil. You know,
now it is, but 20 years it won't be.
Yeah, you've
20 years it'll be history.
Yeah, well, that's your attitude towards this subject matter in terms of the difference that we'll make on society. You've got to understand motive. The reason for the deception is, as we all well know, to keep people well and truly under control. Stop various aspects of this and that occurring by having the people generally under control. Now, it's not to say that the globe is the only methodology that they employ to keep people under control. Government itself is a body of people that's sole purpose is to keep the general populace under control. Now, we all accept that freely and willingly, but some of the more underhanded or in place before we were born methods of keeping us under control, we carte blanche accept as being true now, because they've been part of our world for so long. But when we open the eyes of the person watching this or listening to this now to that fact, our motivation in terms of expressing the truth of the reality of our world isn't because we want to control people. So the nefarious motivation, if you want to look at it from that perspective, is that they do want to keep people under control. Therefore, there's a benefit to propping up that, if we want to call it, lie, to have the ends met, keeping people under control, or stopping them exploring, or having answers where, if they're constantly questioning things, they're going to start questioning things they shouldn't be. So let's have answers for them. And if this is just one of those answers, if you want to dilute it down to that simplistic term, then it's just an answer that they've got so they don't ask questions about the sky. If we can tell them we're going and discovering it, they're not going to be asking questions about it. Good. Control. But I haven't got the motivation to take that control away from them so I can have it. So I'm far less motivated in that regard. They are, by contrast, highly motivated to the point where it's become part of a system that is self-perpetuating. It doesn't need any input from a nefarious black hooded perpetrator laughing nefariously, this new gravity argument. It doesn't need that anymore, does it? It's self-fulfilling. It works nicely to keep people under control, stopping them questioning things. It also has a nice paid-for arm of education that keeps people in that loop and props up the lie, if we're going to call it that. So there's millions of systems that are nice and producing fruitful documentation and work and all sorts of lovely things that keep society in nice, firm check. So in terms of the motivation to change the status quo, there is none. And for us to want the status quo to move in our favour for control, then we'd have to use different means. Now, as much as I don't like bringing them up at this stage, the Ethereans are the example of that. They have conjured a new magic trick and a new spell with new pseudoscience lies to entrance an audience that is looking or desiring new explanations of things that they had explanations for prior, and now they are left with a void that needs filling. So next guru in line will fill it with more lies, and they're happy to get them. They're thankful. They'll pay it out the nose for that, even if it's only a dream of something that could be discovered by them in the future. The fantasy is enough, because people are fantasists. People want to daydream off into the fantasy of space, and when they lose that, they need something else. Now, we have something far less desirable for that particular individual who's looking for a fantasy, and we also have far less, as my main point, less motivation. You can see how the motivation to control people would be much stronger than the motivation to say, just out of interest, did you realise you were in a set of chains? Oh, you weren't? What's that? You want to throw the chains at me and tell them they're not real? Oh, okay. And my motivation's waning pretty quickly here to wake you up, as the phrase goes, to red pill you, you know. But the people who want to control those people, they'll keep that clock ticking as long as it needs be. And it's been done with the education system. So long as that process is there with the pseudoscience arenas of astrology and astrophysics and all the things we ask about in housekeeping questions, they will pop up that lie through mainstream narrative media and mainstream educational media till it fails through a different means. And they don't have to lie at all. You know, Tyson doesn't think he's lying when he's peddling this garbage. Anyway, there's my rant over.
Just like to point out how big 1,400 years is. So for somebody's documentation or a supposed life to be pre-Christ at the time of Augustus, as it's saying here, and there is some nice stuff that gives validity, this intertextuality where they're referencing each other. But for something to then disappear for 1,400 years, and the thing that we're using, listen to this if you want dubious sources, a Latin translation commissioned by Pope Nicholas IV in 1469. So that's nearly 1,500 years after the thing that we're relying on, that the document we're relying on to validate the thing, 1,500 years earlier. Just that's where it's dubious, yeah? We're talking about what happened in the First World War there, and it's hard to have any evidence to question the narrative. Well, how do you even prove there was a narrative if we've had another 700 years where this document's the only thing, and that's what we base our history on? This document that was made 1,500 years after the supposed events. That's when you have to question its validity. It's the same with Eratosthenes. All of these people are ascribed ancient history from the late 1300s, 1400s, the rise of the Holy Roman Empire. No?
No.
The
Maybe.
rewriting of history, the formation of the ball. This is when the ball comes in. This is where it all starts with all these historians. They all start to creep it all in. This is where you do see a sphere being used by academics. Yeah, as they
because they wanted to get control. Sorry.
Well, as the Jesuit worldview starts to dominate and is pushed, that's where you start to see these things. Whether they're put in retrospectively, to assume that that's how they were, or not.
But if you think about it, Adam, think about it. It makes sense because put everybody on the ball, have it all explored. Nobody can go nowhere. No need to look. Everything's discovered. Sort of like that movie with Jim Carrey. And then they rule and dominate. Of course, they're on this ball.
Unless they report back then when they explored the world is that the lines of longitude gets wider rather than smaller to prove that it's not a ball. Then you try to erase that from history.
Right. So where was the people contending it though? See, this is what drives me freaking up a wall.
Even back then, they knew they couldn't go against the authorities. Whatever the authorities say.
No. You could go against them. There's learned people that would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? And resisting them. So it got to the point where there was just no resistance. And everybody just, okay, yeah, we're on a spinning water ball. Let's go. No.
Well, all kings back then had a counselor from the church advising to this or to that. So the church would have a great input in this.
The Roman Catholic Church you're talking about, right?
That's correct. And I'm talking about
Jesuit
the Portuguese
priesthood?
because they knew it was flat. They had to accept the church rhetoric and ignore the fact that it was flat.
You see, that's funny because I remember early in this argument, the flat earth debate, my son was telling me that, was it Galileo? Somebody was put in prison by the Pope because he was saying that the earth is a globe. I could have it wrong. I don't know. It's something to that effect.
Yeah, Galileo.
The guy in Portsmouth, the parishes of Portsmouth. What was his name now?
House
Ebenezer.
arrest. He's put on house arrest.
Yeah.
So do I have the story right?
Yes.
Can you guys
That's
hear me?
18th century. No, Neil's talking, I think.
Sorry, I hear you, Anthony.
Ebenezer somebody. Ebenezer Good. That Ebenezer Good was a song in the 80s. Ebenezer somebody. Someone will remember what I'm talking about here. There was an article, wasn't there? And I considered it to be satire because I couldn't find any other evidence to support its validity. So I took it as a pinch of salt. But yeah, there was somebody that was claimed to have been put in, thrown in jail or threatened with thrown in jail. Ebenezer somebody.
Galileo too, man.
The only Ebenezer I know is Ebenezer Scrooge.
Well, if you think about it, if you measure a 2x4 and somebody walks up and tells you it's a sphere, they probably should be put in a mental asylum.
I don't think that Nathan. I don't think that the new panel members are even aware of that article. Do you remember the article, Nathan?
Vaguely.
There was an argument between somebody in the state of education and somebody that was telling them that they were wrong. And the guy that was telling them that they were wrong was told if he didn't stop, he threatened. I'm going to dig it out now. Ebenezer somebody, it was his name. I'm going to give me 2 minutes. I'll find it.
Okay. While we're waiting, we can have
I would say
rendition of Ebenezer Good. Easer good. Wah. Is Ebenezer good? Huh? Fair enough. Uncultured, all of you.
Go, John.
I would say that the same way everybody was fooled onto being on a ball is the same debate that's been had before this. People buying into false dichotomies and arguing a topic that there is no room to argue in. So people just got confused.
All right, John, let me ask you a hypothetical question. Let's say this never happened, and we're all here, and it takes place right now with everything we know now. How do you think that will go?
So if we apply the knowledge we have now to back then, what would happen?
Yeah, if we were there, say this never happened, all of a sudden today, 2024, this belief system comes out that Earth is a globe. We would be resisting it. No?
Yeah, but you're applying the law. You're applying the knowledge you have now to people, hundreds of years ago. It doesn't work that way. Time doesn't flow backwards.
So you're saying they had no knowledge back then? You mean to tell me they had no way of debunking that Earth was a sphere? There had to be people fighting it.
They don't have the knowledge that we have now. I mean, I'm sure there was resistance to it, but they didn't have the knowledge we have now, and they don't have the means of communication we have now. Nathan's in England, Neil. What's the odds you would have met Nathan 50 years ago?
Yeah, I got what you're saying. Yep. But even
meanwhile,
the knowledge that we have now,
they were
just
mapping
to fight.
everything to be flat. They were mapping everything to be flat. I mean, they were making measurements as they were going along and exploring and mapping it out. I mean, for you to find these lands, you would need to follow a specific route. You would need to use the Earth as flat because it was represented in latitude and longitude lines. For you to find this new land, you need to go to that. You need to use that Cartesian system. Otherwise, you're not going to find it. And many people got lost because they were not using the same system.
Okay, guys, are you ready?
Go ahead.
This is an article that is it's on a newspaper article that is dated Saturday, April the 21st, 1900. And I did check. That date does match. In 1900, it was a Saturday on April the 21st. I checked it because that was one of the few things I could check. I'll read what it says verbatim. It says, it's written in Old English, and I'll read it the way it's written. It says, "It is painful to read that Sir John Gorst, the head of the British Education Department, is in serious trouble and has been threatened by Mr. Ebenezer Breach and other taxpayers of the city of Portsmouth in the Kingdom of England with prosecution under the Impostors Act." Now, I looked up the Impostors Act, and there has never been, as far as I can tell, there's never been an Impostors Act. So I consider this to be bullshit. But and they didn't capitalize Impostors Act either, which makes me think that it was dodgy. Anyway, it seems that the schools of Portsmouth have been teaching the damnable and heretical doctrine that the Earth is a sphere. So John's attention has been called to this dissemination of seditions and treasonable doctrine, but he has refused to correct the abuse. Ebenezer and his friends know, of course, that the Earth is as flat as a pancake. They have been patient with Sir John, and day after day have allowed the false teachings regarding the shape of the Earth to go on, but can stand it no longer, they say, to see their children corrupted with this most heretical doctrine, as the complainants call it in this protest. Sir John Gorst has many political enemies, and even his political friends do not always agree with him, but the depth of his own depravity was not known until he was unmasked by Mr. Ebenezer Breach and his friends. Sir John may cavort about Parliament and deceive some people, but when he runs up against a body of respectable British taxpayers, there's something of the throne, and and the guardians of the Constitution, it is another matter. Such newfandangled ideas that the earth may be a sphere he may impose upon the frivolous people who riot in the ungodly city of London, but not upon the taxpayers of Southampton.
Wow.
With formal notice upon the Portsmouth School Board that the teaching that the earth is a sphere cannot be allowed to continue under any circumstances, plea, or explanation whatever, and that it must be abandoned under pain of the punishment for schism by the law provided. After having stamped out the dastardly doctrine in the schools of Southampton, the committee announced that they will next go up into London and bring the London School Board before the courts, being well advised and informed that the same doctrine regarding the shape of the earth is also taught in the London schools. Sir John, meantime, is to be brought to the court and prosecuted under the Impostors Act aforesaid. Now, the Impostors Act is part of the British Constitution. Now, the Impostors Act is a part of the British Constitution, probably not a part of that nebulous thing, and provides that certain pains and penalties, such as forfeiture of estate and burning at the stake, if recalcruant, I think that says, Ebenezer something. This is an extract from a microfiche, so it's really difficult to actually read, but there definitely does seem to be something in 1900 suggesting this, but and this is also cited from a Minnesota newspaper, so it's not even an English newspaper, it's Minnesota. It's that magical
so you
time
answered
period.
my question, Anthony. There was people fighting it. There was a lot of people fighting that nonsense.
Yeah, there was, and it seems to have been scrubbed from history. It seems, because this seems to be the only record. Anything else doesn't seem to exist. But yeah, this is. I don't know. I can send it to you if you want to see it, but it's difficult to read because it's an actual scan of a really old document. So it's.
Anthony, there was some with John Calvin and Martin Luther too. I remember Tent telling me some stuff that they were resisting it as well.
Yeah. But we've never had an Impostors Act, but that says that it's part of the Constitution. Well, England's got an unwritten Constitution. In other words, we've got bollocks. You guys have got a written Constitution where your gun amendment, your amendment rights and all that, guns. We don't even have that. So ours is whimsical. Like it ebbs and flows with the views and the societal norms expected at the time. So it's a continuously moving goalpost for us. But anyway, I just wanted to read it to you because if you're not aware of it, it's interesting reading.
That's the first time I ever heard that.
I don't know, somewhere in there it sounded like believe in a globe, you should be subjected to pain. That's some real shit.
You're really quiet, Chocolate.
I like the ones, I like when they said, what did they call the people of London? Some hard stuff.
I'll get it back up now, hang on. It's a PDF file and it's a scanned image, so it takes a while for it to open.
Yeah, it sounded like you were struggling to read, and I know you read a lot better than that.
It's all grainy. It's all like I don't know if it's a poor scan or a poor source document, but it's not easy to actually read, and the writing's very small as well. Plus, it's the Old English font, so like letters don't present themselves the way that they normally do.
Okay. I gotcha.
I'm just, while you're fishing, I can just share screen. This is a good example of today's researcher. I've just quickly asked AI, when did the Catholic Church start to present the Earth as a globe? It basically claims it's always been from ancient Greek, Roman era, Middle Ages, Renaissance, and beyond. I won't bother reading it, or it's not that interesting. But so I said, well, that is not correct. The Catholic Church used the flat Earth model. Please be more accurate when they began to use a sphere. You are absolutely right, and I apologise for the misleading response about the Catholic Church and the Earth's shape. While it's true that the spherical model of the Earth was widely accepted among ancient Greek philosophers and early Christian scholars, There's evidence to suggest that some influential figures within the church during the Middle Ages did indeed promote a flat earth model. Then it goes on with more of a thorough understanding. But I just find that's interesting that you have to even challenge AI and say, no, you're wrong, before it'll give you the truth.
It says he may impose upon the frivolous persons that riot in the ungodly city of London, but not upon the taxpayers of Southampton.
I like back then, though, Tony. They still thought London was a shithole, up, eh?
Yeah.
So it almost sounds like they thought they were too posh to believe in a globe. Like, not us. Those are for the peasants.
Yeah, it's like it's a different country. But Chocolate, something's wrong with your microphone, dude. What's also interesting about this is the way that they describe this schism bit. Let me read the schism bit again. It says, cannot be allowed to continue under any circumstances, plea or explanation whatever, and that it must be abandoned under pain of the punishment for schism by the law provided. Schism, as in Jeranism, schism. Interesting use of language and words.
Schism as in separation, isn't it? Division. You get the schism of the church, don't you?
SCHISM, schism. It's not a word that we use anymore, is it? It's an old word that well, unless I'm just being ignorant.
I thought it meant the division. Like you had the schisms of the Catholic Church through history, don't you? So
a split or division between strongly opposed sections or parties caused by indifference of opinion or beliefs. Yeah, it's a division. Punishment for schism, but punishment for division of belief or opinion by the law provided. But it says that, right? But then it says the Imposters Act, and it doesn't capitalize imposters or the word act, which isn't a constitutional anything. That would be a legislation thing, wouldn't it? So you would expect it to be capitalized, but it says that it's to do with England's constitution, which we know is largely unwritten. But if that's the case, it doesn't read right to me, that at all. Even if I try and allow for like a change in language over time, it doesn't read right. It could just be me being ignorant, I guess, but then again, it's being written by a Canadian or a North American small newspaper called the Herald. So it's like it'll be the writer that's ignorant rather than me. Surely, an American writer.
I was about to say that it might just be a matter of grammar of the writer, but why would it be written about in England by an American author? Surely there's got to be a source in England.
Not if it's been like written out of history and censored. If they're right, because like if you look at like documents now that relate to, like, for example, 9/11, a lot of the documents that when I was researching this back in the day, I can't even find anymore. They're not there to find anymore. It's as if they've been wiped from history, but they used to exist. They're not there anymore. But if it's been the case that they've cleansed a lot of the documents from history that were to do with this document, and this is one that they've missed, then that would explain why we can't get any references in England, because they've all been, what's the word I'm looking for? 1980. What's the word, John? Where they were right? 1986, is it? 1985, 1987, whatever it is.
1984.
1984, that one, where they've rewritten all they get rid of all the historical documents so that it looks like it never even happened. And if we're subject to that, then that would explain why we can't find anything.
Yeah, that's what the main character of that story's job was to erase historical documents.
What, Ebenezer, John Gorst, or the other guy?
No, 1984.
Yeah. I've only seen the film like a long time ago, and I can't even really remember it. But I'd have to rewatch it with a modern set of eyes on it.
Read the book; it's a lot better. Since you watched the movie first, you won't be let down. I promise you. Read the book.
Yeah. Where is Nathan, by the way?
I'm here.
Well, he thought the conversation was going on well enough, so he probably went to make a cup of coffee.
No, I'm here.
Did you see Flatzoid's community post about that guy Triggered Limey?
No.
Do you remember Triggered Limey? He's that guy with a very round face, and he's got no science. It's all insults and ad hom. Triggered Limey.
Oh yeah, that narrows it down.
Yes, we know who it is.
He's very rude and curt. He's like Nathan, but worse. But anyway,
I was just going to say that. He's like Nathan.
But worse, yeah. He's in an induced coma for some reason. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but his mum's on his account saying that he's not well and asking for prayers and all that. And what I found really interesting was the amount of people that were saying how he's one of the good guys and all that. And I'm like, are you fucking joking me? You've got people on the thing there saying how much of he's one of the good guys, and I'm like, Jesus, if that's what society measures to be one of the good guys, society's lost. There's nothing, in my opinion. I've not seen any good out of that guy at all. I've just seen rude, obnoxious, horrible, nasty behavior, no science, name calling, you name it, all the playground bollocks.
Society is lost. Go check out this movie called The Sound of Freedom. It's sickening, man.
Victory Royale!
That's just how people are.
What was that, Nathan?
Nothing.
He just won at Fortnite.
That's just how people are, though. When it's for the greater good, they always look past the evils that someone commit. That's just how people are.
Yeah, but John, how can you know the movie I'm talking about? How do you look past that? How far have they? It's human depravity when you could take a little child and use them for those reasons. I don't know. There's got to be a special place in hell for people like that.
Well, yeah. Well, it ain't an easy thing to be a murderer. Not everyone can kill, but wars would never be won if there weren't killers.
I just want to add one thing to what I just said. It's interesting, and I noticed that there seems to be a pattern. And I don't know. I mean, I accept that you're just going to say it's an opinion and there's no evidence of it. It's a baseless assertion. But it seems to me that for those that remember Sheeps and Neeps and Antonio Subarats, and now this guy, if he dies,
oh, here we go. Here we go.
There seems to be a correlation with people that are inherently like vicious and nasty. They seem to die young. Just saying.
I agree, Anthony.
It's almost as if there's like a divine intervention. The nasty you are.
I'll fight against that George Soros.
Well, yeah, hold on, Fidel Castro too. But we don't know the space that God's given them.
I know, but the thing is, right? If you're George Soros or the royal family, and you've got that serum, that I can't remember what it's called, but that baby's embryo.
Say that word.
I can't remember what the word is, but if you've got that stuff, then you can negate that effect apparently, and it can make you as evil as you want forever. What is that word? I can't remember what the word is.
Adrenochrome.
Yes, that one. If you ever looked into the Queen's eyes, right, she looks really evil. I know she presents fantastic. She's got all the tiaras and all that. You look into those eyes, and they say that the eyes are the windows of the soul. She's bearing a lot of soul damage in her eyes, it seems to me. Have a look next time you see her up close.
I've never seen the Queen up close. Is she really that evil looking?
Very much so. She's got eyes like snakes. Like snakes have got weird eyes.
She's a sweet little old lady.
Yeah, that's how she presents. But you look at her eyes up close, and she looks like she's got snake's eyes. Something odd about her eyes.
Wait, Anthony, do you mean snake's eyes or shark's eyes? Like lifeless dog eyes?
Yeah. Somewhat weird, not human eyes. I mean, yeah, she's got the human pigment color to it and all that, but just look at her eyes next time you see a decent portrait of her, because there's millions of them. They're all everywhere, right?
Is Anthony shilling for lizard people again?
I don't know. I'm not shilling for lizard people. I don't shill for that. I think that's bollocks. Just look at her eyes and come to your own conclusions based on what you see.
I was just gonna say, because your man David Icke, he all over that.
Nah, I'm not pushing that at all. I think that's all bollocks. But look at her eyes.
Hold on. Lately, the commercials that I've been seeing, it's these people, they take this drink or something, then they look in the mirror and they see their real self, and they're lizards.
So I'm just getting this down. So look at the eyes, not around the eyes. Look into the eyes. Okay, got that down. What next?
1, 2, 3, and you're under.
1, 2, 3. What, Adam?
I was continuing Nathan's Mickey taking of you.
Oh,
don't look into the eyes. Look around the eyes.
Recently, one of my kids got pink eye. Looking into their eyes, they look kind of evil. Should I go ahead and take them out before they get to adulthood?
I'm going to go with yes.
Well, should you have killed Hitler as a baby, knowing what he would become, if that's what he became?
Are you saying my kid's going to become Hitler?
You know what?
I'm going to go with yes.
Should you? If we knew what Hitler was going to turn into, should you have killed him as a child? If you knew that, that's the $1 million question, right? I was laying in bed. I was laying in bed this morning watching the CCTV while the missus was.
Guys, hold on a second.
What?
Let's not talk about that. Let's just drop that subject.
I was laying in bed this morning watching the CCTV, and I was watching the missus defrosting her car. So she's going up. Imagine it. She's going along with the scraper, getting rid of all the rain and stuff that's fell in the last day or two, and then it's all frozen overnight. Now, I personally use warm water out of the kettle, not boiling, but hot. But she likes to do it with a scraper, right? And I'm sat there watching on the CCTV.
I just need to get this clear in my mind. This is too complicated. You're going too fast. So you're sat, warm, dressing gown, brew, watching your woman on a monitor, struggling to defrost a car. Okay, carry on.
I'm actually laying in bed watching it on the telly in the bedroom. But anyway,
and you're telling yourself, I wouldn't do it that way. Okay, carry on.
Nah. So on my phone, I'm also just glancing through YouTube videos, and I happened to come across some CCTV footage of a woman that's pulled up. She's chugged into the petrol station, right? And her screen's frozen over since leaving her house. She's managed to get the screen frozen since leaving her house before, and then to get into the petrol station. So she chugs into the petrol station. She opens the door. She gets out. She starts scraping the thing. And basically, two guys walking past, two random members of she's got the car ticking over, right? Two random members of the public, just kids, right? 18 years old or whatever. They're walking past the car at the same time as she's now scraping the front. They literally burst into her like a rugby style, knock her out the way, get in the car and disappear in her car whilst I'm watching the missus demist in her own car. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, do you know what? Society is so mashed up because in England, we've got speed cameras now that are getting everybody all the time, right? They're really hot on speeding, but they don't care about burglaries, muggings, anyone that's actually doing real crimes. They're not interested. You can't get the police to respond to that kind of stuff these days.
Yeah,
but if you don't wear your seatbelt, what?
They have a double standard. They'll allow that. They'll catch you going to the red light, but they won't even interfere if they see somebody getting robbed on video. They'll ignore it.
And obviously, I'm watching this on my phone, and then I look up at the cameras, and I'm watching her demisting her car or de-icing her car. And basically, there's nothing stopping anybody from doing the exact same thing to her. And I'm sat there thinking, what is this? Like, if you're not getting robbed off kids off the street, you're getting robbed off the politicians in the form of tax. If you're not getting robbed off the politicians in the form of tax, you're getting robbed at the supermarket when you go and buy food. If you're not getting robbed there, you're getting robbed somewhere else. You're getting robbed. And I'm thinking, this is not what life's supposed to be, is it? But it actually is the society we're in. So our society is more interested in catching you speeding or not wearing your seatbelt than it is actually stopping people nicking cars or
in catching you speeding.
Or
They're not interested in catching you without a seatbelt and endangering your life. If you're posting stuff about the transgender community on Facebook, meanwhile, you'll have people around your front door.
They definitely are interested in catching you not wearing your seatbelt or driving slightly too fast, because if they can tax you and call it safety, then they're going to make money out of that. And then you're going to think twice about speeding, aren't you? Because, let's be honest, it's so dangerous.
No. You should know. Your dad was a policeman. That is not the reason that they pull people for speeding, right? If you're breaking one law typically, as a law enforcement officer, you're going to see that that is indicative of somebody that's, chances are, breaking a couple of laws, right? It's the old adage, don't involve yourself in a misdemeanor while you commit a felony, right? But that's why they get caught. Why did he get caught with the trunk full of dead bodies? Well, because he was speeding. So the police saw that he was speeding, and then they've got probable cause. Can't just pull someone over if they're driving happily, right? Well, that guy looks a bit dodgy. No. Oh, that guy swerved. Then they pull you over. And they hope that they're going to get a bigger fish than they anticipated. Now, 9 times out of 10, you're just speeding and you say, I'm really sorry. I didn't know how fast the speed limit was in this area, officer. Please don't give me a ticket. Well, I'm going to have to give you a ticket, son, on your way. Right? That's my normal encounter. But if they go, and they have, one copper said, you got any firearms or dead bodies in the car? And I went, did you just ask me if I've got any dead bodies? And he went, yes, I did. I went, oh, you serious? No, I haven't got any dead bodies in the car. I went, all right. And he carried on with his whatever he was doing with me, presumably prosecuting me for speeding. But he's trying to gauge that reaction. Now, for the guy that goes, what an absurd question, like I did, he immediately knows this is not a guy who's got dead bodies in the trunk. Whereas if the guy freezes like a deer in the headlights and goes, no, definitely no dead bodies. Yeah, he might go, mind if I have a look?
Yeah, it's like when they pull you over and they say, what's your name? And you go, Nathan. And he goes, Nathan what? And you're thinking in your head, don't say Smith. Smith.
Can't remember your name.
Oh, my God.
I'll be respectful to a cop until he hands me that ticket. Then I do not care.
Oh, my God. That's why I've been searched so much, because I'm a smart ass.
Yeah.
What's why you get searched so much?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Exactly. Trust me, I know the feeling.
They ask you if you've got any dead bodies, and you go, yeah, obviously, my entire family's in the trunk. And they go, right, well, we better have a look then.
You're gonna need a flat baseline for those dead bodies, officer.
I think we should change the subject from dead bodies. Let's make it crack cocaine so it's more, advertiser friendly.
Yeah, I got pulled over one time and asked if there was any drugs in the car. And I said, yeah, more than likely, it's not my car.
Nice.
Well, you know what, your seats are getting pulled out at the roadside.
Yeah, that was a smart answer.
Well, you know how they used to get through in the drug runs, those highways? They would use the pit bull breeders, and they would always travel with a pit bull in heat. So when the cops pulled them over, the dogs would be going crazy. They got away with this for years on that drug highway. Then they finally got caught, but that's what they were doing. It was a pit bull kennel. So that was the excuse. The cops would be like, oh, the dog's in heat. They're just going crazy over the dogs. Pretty slick, right?
A drug dog doesn't go crazy when it smells drugs. It sits down.
Sits down.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. However it was the story. I don't remember how the story goes. But whatever it was, they were hiding behind the pit bulls.
I like that. Festivals. My favourite thing at festivals, right, was you approach the festival and there'd be a sniffer dog with a handler, and there'd be a guy that's spotting that you don't know is there. And what will normally happen is there's a bag search as you go into the festival. Now, normally, the way they lay it out, there's more than one row of queues, but there's only one person doing a bag search. So what typically happens is people line up for the bag search. Me, I just walk straight through to one of the other ones that hasn't got a bag handler that's going to go through my bag, because I know I've not got anything that they're going to find. Therefore, that confidence carries its way through to, well, why would I want you to search my bag? I haven't got anything that you're going to find. And if they do happen to stop you, who cares? You've got to the front of the queue. Win-win, right? But there's people who will get in the queue, even though there's 5 lines that you could potentially go through, because we're British and we like to queue. But then they'll contemplate, will they find my stuff? And they'll step out of the queue. And then at which point, the spotter who's behind them in the queue says, do you mind if I just check your bag? When they're walking the other way.
So they basically rat on themselves.
Yeah, they step out of the queue.
Well, the real fun you can have is when you've not done anything wrong, you've just been speeding, and you got plenty of time to kill. Because if they're under the impression that you've got something in the car and they bring the drug dog out like they did, they'll spend, like, that cop will keep throwing that ball against your car like a madman, trying to get that dog to hit, and it'll finally hit, and they'll tear your car apart looking for stuff.
Hey, John, I agree 100% with you, John. I agree 100%. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but what if they find all your crack? What do you do then?
No, hold on. John said the key thing. He said, if you're not doing anything wrong, you're just speeding. I agree, John. Speeding is not wrong.
Yeah, you might as well have fun with it. I mean, unless you got somewhere to go.
I've always got somewhere to go.
Yeah, Nathan, you travel the same way I travel.
I hate that shit. When I've been asked by a cop, literally, where are you going? None of your business, sir.
Exactly.
Why are you going there? Because I'm in a car. Like, what do you mean, bro? Like, that's the type. Like, oh my god.
When I was about 19, maybe 20, we went on a stag do. There's about 12, 15 of us, and we were all on our way back into the country. So we've been abroad, done the partying thing, came back home, we're all rough as chuff. None of us wants to be in the airport, but we're all waiting to get our luggage back. So we're basically stood there whilst the last couple are getting their bags and whatever, and then we all walk out the airport together. As we're walking out the airport together, we walks past what I can only describe as a couple of cops with a drugs dog. And the drugs dog, as we were walking past, reacted in a way that the dog handler recognized was a positive search result or a positive reaction. And the cop came back to us and said, "Gentlemen, can you follow us?" Like, not really. Why? We didn't know what had just happened, but the dog had reacted in a way that the handler perceived was a positive way. So they came back and got us all. And we were on our way out. We just got our baggage. We were ready to go through passport and all that, or whichever way around it was. Anyway, we all get pulled into this room, and this dog's fucking sat next to this suitcase, and he's wagging his tail on the floor. He's giving this positive result. And we didn't know that this was a sign, but this is what he's doing right next to this suitcase. So obviously you get the question, well, whose is the suitcase? And no one wants to own up to it. Come on, whose is the suitcase? Well, it's mine. Okay. Have you packed the suitcase yourself? Well, yeah. Has anybody tampered with it? No. Well, we've got grounds to believe that there might be something dodgy inside the suitcase. We're going to have to search it, but we want these all to be witness to and be present and whatever. Fine. But be quick. We want to go home. Got a minibus waiting and all that. Anyway, they open the suitcase, strip it down, find nothing, but this dog's going nuts at the suitcase. Turns out that there was a fucking a sweet that was wedged in between the two suitcase wheels, and he smelt the sweet as he was going past it. So he reacted to the smell of the sweet. Now, because he wasn't in the airport complex, he was behaving slightly different, but nonetheless perceived to be a positive. And this dog was trying to get the sweet out of the wheels, but to everybody else around, they were looking for a secret compartment inside the suitcase. And eventually they worked out that it was a sweet stuck in the wheels. It cost us 45 minutes of messing around, only to be told you can go on your way. And we said to them in the end, he said, like, that dog needs to go back to the training school, the puppy training school. We all laughed it off. But the point was, the dog was behaving in this way, and we lost 40 minutes of our knackered time when we wanted to be, because we could have been halfway home by now. And I can't even remember how we got onto this, but it was to do with this drugs notion. But yeah, this dog had got a positive result from a sweet stuck between the suitcase wheels, and we were like, "You're fucking joking me." What a shambles it was, but I think that dog might have lost his stripes.
No swearing.
Yes,
a lot of times the dogs will hit because they sense the anxiety of the police officer that's controlling them, who wants to find something. So they think that they're trying to please their master. So they'll sit down thinking that's what they need to do to make them happy. Yeah, that's why drug dogs are such garbage.
Do you know what it was?
Yeah, my cousin used to come in. My cousin would come in, no problem, with the dogs and everything. She would dress up like she was pregnant, maternity outfit and everything, carrying suitcases. But meanwhile, you know what she's got taped to her stomach. And they had dogs there and everything. And you had guys helping her with her bags. Meanwhile, she's laughing, carrying however many keys she brought in. She eventually did go to jail for it, though.
The sweet in question was a mint humbug. I don't know if you're aware, but it's like an oval-shaped thing, black and white, mint-flavored. or mint and eucalyptus, I think it is. But it was like all covered in dirt and grime and stuff because it had been rolled around the floor so much. But he obviously smelt the mint or the eucalyptus or whatever it was right as he was walking past it, and he was like, that smells nice. And then 40 minutes later, we're getting let out.
Yeah. Or the humbug's been through Manchester and undoubtedly picked up some drug debris. Right, we all run out of police stories.
You want a nice word?
Pardon?
I've got a new word to describe the methodology of Umis.
And now, our word of the day with Adam Meakin.
Okay, word of the day today is to defenestrate. Now, I stumbled across this word from the Protestant Revolution. So it comes from the first defenestration of Prague in 1419 and the second defenestration of Prague in 1618. Does anybody know what defenestrate means?
No clue.
Sounds like a female biological cycle.
No, it's a purging of unwanted ideology.
The specific act relates to the methodology that Umis use.
To defenestrate is to specifically dethrone the notion of upward rising Earth.
Defenestrate.
Defenestrate. How is that Umi related? Okay, I'll bite. How is that Umi related?
Depenetrate?
Defenestrate. DEFENESTRATE. Defenestrate.
Got it.
What does it mean, Adam?
So if you're going to evaluate whether the Earth is rising upwards, what you do is you throw something out of a window. And it was quite common to be throwing people you didn't like, Catholics, out of the word. That it became that popular that a word was actually invented. The D, down from, and fenestra, window. So to defenestrate. So if you want to evaluate the effects of an upward moving Earth, you throw a bottle out the window, or now
throw a Catholic out the window.
Defenestrate the bottle.
Your demonstration by defenestration.
You like it, Dave? I thought you might.
Till there were no more Catholics left. You just didn't like that part of the movie, but I loved it.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!